Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Mitch Kennedy, Original D Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, John Travolta, J Melds 24, Unimento, M Iron 26, Endless, Goldie McKinnon, Retro Bill, More Books, Cannabear, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Neo the One, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
I was having a conversation with somebody, but he left. So now I was trying to see what's going on with the rest of the people in Discord in the meantime.
What's happening in Discord?
Oh, nothing. I was just, trying to communicate, talk with people. All right. That's what I was trying to say.
So you going to Element today? Or Nathan?
Oh, good morning, Neil.
What's up?
Not much. Had a nice, relaxing weekend. You?
Hmm. How could, how could it be relaxing when my Rangers are in a 7-game series that they should have won in 4, and now I got a game 7 tonight, and my stomach's already in a knot.
Oh,
Talking hockey. You're from Canada. You should be into hockey.
did I? Did I, Neil? Yeah, people were into hockey and stuff like that when I was in grade school and in high school, and it's all over Canada. But sports is not for me, Neil. I did follow one time the Raptors basketball game, like for like half
What
a
up?
season or something, and I thought that one was actually good. Out of all the sports I've seen, that one was actually it was interesting. It was back in the day when Vince Carter was around and he was doing all those flashy dunks. It was good stuff. I'll admit that. But hockey, I never. One thing I didn't like about hockey is that it's so hard to follow the players, right? Like it just seems like the camera snaps everywhere and you can't distinguish one player from another. Meanwhile, with basketball, it's a lot easier to tell where everybody is, right? And who's who. You know what I mean? And it's just easier to follow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because the puck is small in hockey. You got to know what you're looking at.
Yeah. Basketball is huge.
They
Big
used to
cow, little
try.
cow, right?
They tried a number of things. Like when the computer age started, they tried putting like a green strip everywhere the puck went. That didn't work.
Ah, so they were trying to do something about this, huh?
Yeah, of course. I don't study the puck sometimes. I just know how the
My
game is
sol-
played, so I anticipate where it's going.
my solution, I always thought about the ideal way to watch like a hockey game would be to have control of all the cameras. And then that way you can switch where you want to be. You follow me? Because you know the best vantage point to follow the game, right? Does that make sense? That seems like the
Yeah.
only solution for me. Hello, good morning. Was that 10th?
No,
Tenth man is
Who was
back.
that?
Thank God. Where you been?
I don't
I
know
don't
who
even
you
know if it
guys are
was him.
talking to.
I don't think he's here. I didn't hear no ding dong. Yeah.
Somebody said 10th was here.
I thought I heard somebody that sounded like 10th, but then I realized I didn't hear no ding dong doorbell sound. Nobody else could have came in the G plus. Anyways,
It's a bunch of guys over at Element. Are you running it through Element today, Nathan, or no?
Maybe.
Was just top secret flat earth debate.
Which.
so Neil, if the game is tying your stomach into a knot,
Why am I watching?
yeah. Why?
I would love to see the Rangers win the cup. Hey, Owen.
Hello? Anybody
Hello, Howard?
actually talking about flat Earth? Been trying to for like 2 hours, and like
I'm gonna
got
right now.
one person that isn't a troll commenting. One person.
I'm gonna right now. That was hysterical the other night on Flat Sword stream when that guy. Were you there the other night when that guy said he challenged Flat Sword on thermodynamics, conceded that he was wrong on everything, but that Flat Sword was still incorrect?
Yeah, I
Incorrect?
was there. I was on the channel.
Oh, that was funny. You're still wrong. Oh my
Yeah, the guy
goodness.
who conceded, he whenever asked, he literally did not understand one thing he was asked about. Not one thing. Everything he had to be explained. Everything. So he literally did not have any form of expertise about anything in the entire field.
Here's my impersonation of him. Okay, you got me there, but you're still wrong about everything. You're just better with your words than me.
Right. Yeah, that was funny.
But I don't know why he didn't just take it. Why didn't he just focus on gravity? Because the guy was using Newton's gravity, and that's over with, right? That's what I thought.
I don't know.
Hey, Brian.
I mean, I think the guy literally learned physics from watching Simon Dan or something exclusively. Like, never even Googled anything. He was so ill informed; it was unbelievable.
But the Etherites are coming through because Brian posted something about what were they saying? I tried to. They won't let me watch it on here.
Huh?
Brian. So what was that all about?
No, it was about this. They're talking about general relativity, but at one point, as a lead up to it, Wixit brings up Newton, kind of as a lead up to general relativity, and he says, I can't remember his exact quote. It's at 1940, just after 1940 of the video, and he claims something to do with Newton claiming the ether was responsible for what he was supposedly calling gravity. Something like that. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's like, I never heard that before.
I never did either.
No, well, I can't say he didn't say it, but I've never heard that being said from Newton. Also, but after that, Jaron brings up scientific method because they're talking about how ridiculous things have become for what they call mainstream science. And they go into a lot of different things, but it's like, I don't understand why he's bringing up scientific method. I thought that was no good, according to him.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with these. I don't know what's going on with these people.
Wait a second. He said science doesn't prove anything. He battled Nathan about it, started a big war, and now he's trying to say that they've hijacked science today. It'd be nice if he knew what it was.
So did any of you actually watch my show from Saturday or yesterday or today? All the same subject?
No, I didn't watch that one.
Yeah. Do you guys ever check out my channel?
Yes, Arwin.
I know you do, Nathan. I'm asking the rest. Because
I
I
do
do
sometimes,
still
Darwin.
talk about flat Earth, you know. I do still talk about it, especially when it's in the title or something.
I do sometimes, but you end up I've heard you talking about things sometimes that's just not interested in so much, you know, and that's why because you're not on just this topic. That's why I don't continually listen in.
Oh, I get that. But I mean, Saturday I had a whole item, yeah, advanced relative density, and it's driving me nuts because I'm getting swarmed by people that just persistently get it wrong, including Raichi. It's really driving me up the wall. It's
Is
like they
this
just
about the
won't
whole
stop.
Earth moving up the way thing?
Sorry? Did you say?
Is this about the whole Earth moving up the way claim that's going on at the moment?
Yeah, it's involved in that. But it's the reification of it. Right. But my whole item was about the density axis shift that happens when you have an accelerating medium. And the medium itself is accelerating, and how that works and how it compounds. Laid it all down very clearly with examples described. And yeah, I've been back and forth bickering about it with people ever since. They just refuse to get it. I mean, I don't know how to explain it any more simple than I have.
Well, I explained what that was. What they're making a mistake. I explained the mistake they're making.
Are y'all by chance talking about the recent Globebusters 1940?
We
No.
were a minute ago. Now we're talking about Arwen show. But
They're not
you
still
can
doing
talk about
that, are
if you
they?
want.
Pardon?
They're not still doing Globebusters, are they? Shame.
I still didn't catch what you said, Paul. Say again.
They're still doing Globebusters, are they? I thought it'd be wound up.
I don't know what the score is with Globebusters. Does anybody know what the score
Okay.
is with Globebusters since the passing of Bob Nodell?
Well, even before Nodell passed, I heard Jaren was leading the show for quite a while, quite a few months. So I'm assuming it's just going to continue with Jaren. But yeah,
Right. Anyway, I'm going out. I'll be back at the end of the live show, probably.
all right, later. But yeah, that's what I know of, anyways.
John, were you
Well,
talking about 1940 on that video?
Maybe repeat it again, Brian.
John, refracted curvature. Is he gone? He's gone. He's gone. That's what I have to drop him.
Where did Neil go?
Don't know. Well, this is a good warm up.
John, refracted curvature. You there?
Yeah, sorry about
Yeah.
that.
No worries. Were you talking about that? The video, the Globebusters video, 1940 on that. The quote that Austin Whitsitt said concerning Newton.
Well, I finally figured out what his logical framework is. He's going on that whole, there's a model of reality we have to stick to. He made those claims right before that.
What model?
I'm not claiming him, Neil. I'm just saying Whitsitt. That's when he says logical framework. That's what he's talking about.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So, speaking of Whitsitt, did Rebel even come back the other day, or he never came back? He said he was going to come back and break down Ether.
No, he wasn't. He already said he couldn't talk to somebody like me because I was hopelessly lost.
That's funny. You have to have a framework.
Yeah, I don't understand that kind of thinking. I just don't.
If you have electricity, and magnets work. It's the ether. It has to
Nathan.
be.
Huh?
Nathan, are you around? Could you play that small bit of audio from Glowbusters at 19 minutes and 40, just for a minute or so? Just something Austin Whitsitt says, and I've never heard it before. I just want to find out if it's true or not. John might know.
Now?
It doesn't have to be now. You can do it on the live show if you like. I don't mind.
Yeah, let's do it on a live show.
It would be a claim associated with a downward bias, I'm guessing.
Or Earth's moving upwards.
A perceived downward bias. Thank you, Neil. Perceived downward bias. Never mind that we don't observe a downward bias. Let's just forget that part. Let's just accept that's true and then try to figure out the cause of this thing we don't see.
Yeah, that's what a guy in Flatside came in and kept telling us that math attracts math. It does.
To stream, I appreciate my sanity and stuff like that, but basically, most people should know, obviously, but they tried to test for the Earth's orbit going around the sun. They used interferometry, and it didn't work. So I'll do like this. I'll try to briefly kind of break down the whole thing. So first you had Newtonian mechanics, gravity, right? Newton said he has no idea what it is. It must be a direct act of God. There has to be an ether for it to work. It's an absurdity to think that it's an intrinsic property of matter and acts on other matter through a vacuum, blah, blah, blah. Simply put, he said that an object in free fall will fall in a straight line unless a force is acted upon it to make it curved, i.e. an orbit, and that there's a fixed background of space. So this was like the basic framework that everyone used. And then we fast forward up. Now you have this ether fixed absolute framework, our reference frame with everything.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto, and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by, get this video out of the way, Adam Meakin, Brian's Logic, Arwin, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, and I don't think there's anybody in Element, but we're in there if anybody is. No, we're not. So Discord, that's it. Welcome one and all.
Good morning.
Hello, how are things?
Very well.
Hello, hello, hello.
Very well. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge? That's a horizon, formerly known as Earth curvature.
Still? Well, they claim boats are going over the horizon.
We
Still
debunk-
till this day.
We debunked that in 2020. If the horizon's refracted, as they told us, after demonstrating that it cannot be a physical geometric leading edge for boats to go over, therefore response from globe believer refracted, it cannot be geometric. And the claim of a globe is a geometric claim with a geometric requirement for a geometric tangent to that Earth curve edge they used to say boats fell over. Now boats fall over refraction rather than Earth curve, debunking the claim of Earth curve. We don't have an Earth curve edge for a horizon. We've only got one. It's not Earth curve.
The people listening out there who might be new, because there's always someone new listening eventually. The actual claim of a physical geometric horizon that boats go over is actually only a mathematical claim. It's not actually something real. The physical sphere edge, the geometric sphere edge that Nathan is asking for the evidence for, is only in the maths. It's not in reality.
Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
You're gonna need off for that, right?
Any evidence of
Well,
the
according to
R
airline
value?
pilots.
Earth radius. If you're going to ask for R for Earth radius, yeah, you need that for axial rotation, Neil. Spot on. R value? Anybody at all? I've already
How are you
covered
going
it.
to have an R value if Earth is not a sphere?
You can't. We debunked it in 2020. If you haven't got a geometric sphere edge to measure a tangent to, you can't assert the sphere edge tangent based geometry of an Earth curve based sphere Earth. So, no, you're right, Neil. Right, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I just want to go back to the R value question there a second. According to Phil Bell, the evidence for the R value is GPS, a flat Earth system, spherical excess, and some other absolute rubbish. That's the evidence for the R value from Professor Phil Bell. That's the best he's got.
Well, that's not evidence, my friend.
No, that's wrong. Actually, GPS is flat Earth, and spherical excess is mathematical only. Nobody measures any of this rubbish. Sorry, Nathan.
That's
Evidence
right.
for
Any
the distance to the sun?
The distance to the sun, indeed.
Well,
So
there is an angular size. Go on, sorry. Go on.
Before we move on really quick, that means GPS would be proof of an FE then, right?
It is. It's using a grid system that's flat. It's based on the positions to the stars measured with angles off a flat plane. It's a latitude-longitude grid system. I was going to say Euclidean, but it's Cartesian. I always get those two mixed up. It's a Cartesian grid. It can't be anything other than flat.
Okay.
So yes, to just confirm, it is indeed a flat Earth proof when people say GPS. That's why it needs the overt strapline, global positioning system. Okay, well, beyond the title, how does it work? Well, it works with a grid that's been measured off a flat plane with angles that can only be measured off a flat plane with a system that's flat. So yeah, it's definitely a flat Earth proof is GPS. Shocking, isn't it? Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
You went past the distance to the sun, Nathan.
I thought we wrapped that up in the R value. You'll need R for that also. Based on the globe's assertion of the distance, 93, whatever it is, million miles.
Well, I can give the story about what they did if you want, or we can just move on. I don't mind.
Yeah, you go ahead, Brian. You seem keen.
Well, I thought you want a bit more meat on the bones on the show. Well, to figure out the distance to the sun, they pre-assumed there was a globe of radius 3959 miles, something they never measured. And they pre-assumed that Venus was also a sphere of basically 3959 mile radius. And they, during the transit of the sun, the Venus's transit of the sun, they determined off of the angular size of the sun and the angular size of Venus how far away from the sun Venus was. and that told them how far away from Venus the Earth was, their globe Earth, and then essentially how far away from the sun the globe Earth was. That's basically where it all comes from. It's all back engineered from one point, and that is them looking up and taking an angular size of an object in the sky that they've never seen the actual size of.
Any more for any more? Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, what are you talking about? Because the guy came in Flat Swords the other night, and he was talking about mass attracting mass. I don't even think he knew about pseudo-ammonia force space.
Mass attracting mass. What? Wait, checking my calendar. What year is it again? What's going on?
Hey, talking about.
It's been 108
He
years.
Guys.
Mass hasn't been claimed to attract mass for 108 years.
Wait, so if mass was attracting mass at some point, would it have just stopped?
No.
Is that how that works?
It never was. See, they called it a law of nature, right? In that regard, it's claimed to be a law, or it was 108 years ago. But laws of nature are irrefutable. Right? You can't violate them. They're always in effect. But in the case of mass attracting mass, it was never in effect. It doesn't happen.
Well, then why do I still hear law of gravity? I heard that the other day. There's a law of gravity.
Did you not watch one of my worst viewed series in terms of live shows, at least? The Wired Witch series. We did 5 videos on the Wired Witch, and that series is a progression of how we became indoctrinated into the ideas of gravity, progressing all the way through to you being the proud benefactor of the information at the end of the process that lets you know that it's all very interesting and mathematically beautiful, but we really don't know if it's even applicable. That's what you get to learn at the end of the process. Along the way, you get told mass is attracting mass when you're really young by people who know damn well it isn't.
That's sad.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Look
Well,
at
how would
stuff
you
and
put
then
it through
make
the
up
scientific method?
stories.
Go ahead, Duncan.
No, yeah, I was just saying, look at stuff in the sky and then make up stories about it. I think that's science now, right?
Well, that's astronomy, astronaming.
How would you put it through the scientific method if you
Not science.
if you can't handle it?
It isn't science. It's hijacking the valor of an empirical method known as science to infer that the stories about the lights in the sky, after looking at them, have some empirical validity to them when they don't. So you'll hear words like experiment and theory when they have none of the above.
Speaking of empirical, what are those 4 points again? Because I was looking all over for it and I couldn't find it anywhere.
Observable, testable, repeatable, falsifiable.
Yeah, I couldn't find it. It doesn't say that anywhere.
Okay. Yeah, I said that to QE once when he was teaching me this stuff. I'm like, I'm trying to find these references for basic stuff, cause and effect reasoning, systematic method, hypothesis, just a string of words that says that from a professor or something, and I can't find it. And he laughed, QE, quantum eraser. And his reasoning behind laughing was because it's very rudimentary stuff, basic. So to expect to find some university prof talking about the basics of science when you're reaching a university level is highly improbable. Because it's like, I don't know, a neurosurgeon describing the shape of someone's face. So rudimentary and basic, or describing someone having a nose. It's basic. So you don't tend to find that there's people who are describing cause and effect reasoning based on systematic experimentation after formulating a hypothesis, after watching something happen in nature. It's just not summarized in that way. We are dumbing this down, surprisingly, because the average general Joe public member doesn't have the slightest idea what science is. and has led to the misapprehension that stories about lights in the skies and black holes and things of that nature are science, and they're not. But they wouldn't know, and a university professor's not going to tell them.
But there's university professors that teach things that aren't science as science.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they don't know what science is either.
Yeah, strictly speaking.
Science is a method, correct?
Yeah, a method to elucidate the cause of an effect you've observed in nature.
And when you do that, right, that's when you come up with those 4 points.
When you say to have something that could be deemed empirical, I think that's how this question came up when you last asked it on Ballbusters. What is it to be empirical? Yeah, observable, testable, repeatable, falsifiable was the list that Quantum Eraser gave you. If you look up empirical, I think it says to test by experiment. What's an experiment? A hypothesis test. What's a hypothesis? The establishment of your presumed cause of an effect observed in nature. What's an effect observed in nature? A phenomena that you're studying. That's the starting point. Why did that happen? Let's find out. How do we find out? We presume something caused it, and then we vary it to see if it did or not. That's it. That's all the method is.
So that's when you get those 4 points. I got it. Because then it would be observable, testable, repeatable, and falsifiable, correct?
Yeah,
I got that right?
Well, yeah, if you say mass attracting mass, that's a statement. Is that you observing mass attracting mass in nature? No, it isn't. So can you put it through the scientific method? No. What about four-dimensional space-time bending? Is that observable? No. Definitely not going to be put through the scientific method then. What about scurvy? Is that observable? Yep. Right, let's move on to the next step then. What do we do if we want to figure out the cause of that effect? We suppose the cause of it, and then vary the cause of it, and see if we get the effect. That's it. If you do, you've established the cause of the effect. That's it. That's all you've got to do. And how do you establish the cause of the effect? Vary your presumed cause and see if it causes the effect. That's called an experiment. Variation of presumed cause to see if it causes the effect you're studying in nature. That's it. That's the whole process from start to end. You see something. Now, where the repeatable aspect comes in is the not repeatability of the observation of the phenomena, but the repeatability of the variation of the presumed cause to induce the outcome, the effect you're studying in nature. Now, that bit has to be repeatable. That would be to say that systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis has to be systematically performed by multiple parties, unconnected. Now, that isn't done for anything other than to eliminate the possibility of an experimental setup flaw. Well, if you have a flaw in your experimental setup, then it'll be exposed by the repeatability of people doing your test. If there's a problem with the hypothesis, it shouldn't get to the testing stage. If you've got a non-viable hypothesis. So hence us asking any viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology or astrophysics, because they don't have any science. However, the Western world is led to believe that all of this crap about being on a globe is fed to them by the science of the globe. Well, there isn't any. Any evidence?
Well, that's funny because we used to be told all the time.
Oh, three people at once.
When we're describing the scientific method, I've been terming it observe a natural phenomena. Could it be termed observe a phenomena? Because there's obviously a difference between a phenomena and a natural phenomena. Has it got to be something that occurs in nature for it to go to the scientific method?
Absolutely.
Or can it just be a phenomena?
Yeah, we're talking about natural science. Plus, if you have something that's not a natural phenomena, something that's induced in a machine, let's say you, I don't know, fire some light at a mirror and measure the return signal, and then you start spinning a dolly that's got the light bouncing off the mirror so that it's rotating as you fire that light. Okay. Have you induced an effect? Yeah, you have. What was the cause of the effect? Well, is it observed in nature? Or did a man make it happen? A man made it happen. So we already know the cause of that effect, don't we? I caused it. I made it happen. I made that happen when I induced that effect. Now, stumbling across something occurring in nature and asking why that happened is very different to making something happen and then going, why did that happen? If you don't know why it happened when you made it happen, then you're an idiot. You don't need science if you're making things happen and asking why they're happening.
That's the part they don't understand, Nathan, because they keep playing with these toys that they have and claiming that it's science.
Oh, I see. They make a toy and then call it an experiment. Yeah, ask about face starting with the experiment. Yeah, the experiment comes at the end.
Well, even if you grant them that you can see a phenomenon within the device, so it's not natural, right? You're still not manipulating anything. You could call it an effect, but you don't have the cause.
Yeah, you do. The cause is man, right?
Well, you're the cause of the apparatus, but the effect you observe within the apparatus, you're not the cause of that.
Yeah, you are. Unless you can show me it occurring in nature.
No, the device would be the cause.
Yeah, you made the device.
But
you made the device to make the effect happen, and then you turned it on. What are you going to say? Well, because I've made this machine, and then I've switched it on, and it's autonomous from that point forward. The machine's making no, not at all.
Well,
no, it's not.
Under that reasoning, you could call every effect you see in nature. You could say the cause is God. Move on.
No, because I can vary and manipulate presumed causes of it to see if I can induce it when it's not happening. You know what I mean?
Right, but you can manipulate aspects of the device to control it, the effect you observe within the device.
Yeah, but you're still creating the device to create the effect to then question why the effect's happening. This isn't going to change, no matter how many steps you put in between.
They got natural devices where you from?
No, I didn't say
Can
that.
I ask a question?
No, I didn't introduce the idea of nature to this. I was just saying if you're just talking about an effect, I don't like.
Oh, I see where he's going. Oh, right. If you're not interested in the elucidation of the cause of a natural phenomena, you're just interested in inducing? Yeah, in inducing the effect yourself. So the question of its origin, its cause, is a kind of irrelevant question. You're just trying to induce the effect then.
Well, to manipulate the effect is to know the cause. Like, if I make a coffee maker and there's processes that take place within that machine, I'm not necessarily the cause of those processes that happen.
They don't need to. They don't. No, that's just backwards. They don't need to look for cause because the cause is you make.
You're roboting, Brian. I'll do a quick shout out. Hopefully, Brian will drop and rejoin. Quick shout. Why is my stuff all not lined up properly today? I have lined this all up once. Weird. Okay. Shout out to Godzilla37 who says, "We," in quotes, "know this, and we," in quotes, "studied that. Their we," in quotes, is no more valuable than the one I left on Godzilla. Come on. Is no more valuable than the one I left in the toilet. Thank you for the super chat.
Good one.
Well, what I'm talking about is like problem solving within technology. That is not science. It's technological problem solving. That's all that is. Yeah, troubleshooting. Trial and error.
So you're talking about like if you made a coffee maker that did something other than make coffee, like the way it was designed, if you could troubleshoot that, that's what you're talking about? Because if you make a coffee maker and it just makes coffee, it's just doing what you designed it to do, right?
Well, we're confusing things, right? Because we're saying the coffee maker, which is like a hard noun. I'm just talking about effects within the device.
Let's pick something that's got let's give you an example that parallels with nature. If you take something like the Wright brothers and flight, yeah, then you can easily parallel it with something that has an observed effect in nature. You can see something happening flight, right? You can class that as a phenomena, and you can easily science the cause of the phenomena. However, going through the process of trial and error to get men into the air is not science. That's technology.
Thank you. That's the major point I wanted to make. So you can apply cause and effect reasoning within technology, but that does not make it science. Just so people understand that, because I think a lot of people
Make
don't.
it not either.
It doesn't make it
No,
not
it
either.
doesn't
No,
make
no,
it not.
absolutely. I was about to go there exactly. Your timing's epic, Adam, but you've left me stuttering because I was about to go there too. Go ahead.
Well, even in the coffee machine, we can take certain points within that machine and elucidate a cause and effect relationship. Yeah. The actual device, when it's put together, isn't science, but within certain parts of it, certain the knowledge of how we're going to construct the machine may have been elucidated from a cause and effect relationship. So we know that, for example, we want hot water, we want boiling water. So we can take the science from that, can't we? We know we're going to have to put heat into this device to get the water hot. There is science in it. We're going to use that foundation of science as the knowledge for how we're going to build the machine. We're not going to put no hot water heater in and expect it to make hot coffee.
So Godzilla says, "Don't blame me. It was written perfectly. Sit closer." Now you put quotes around everything. I'll read it if you like. How you with the intonation instead of the quote marks around it. We know this, and we studied that. Their we is no more valuable than the one I left in the toilet. It's not that I can't read. I just read the quotation marks for the people who are listening. And they can't see me doing the air quotes when I'm not even on camera. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
Why don't you read it to yourself first and then read it out?
I was getting ready to get to that, Adam, is most of the things we build with technology have come from an understanding in science or physics. But that doesn't make everything that we do in technology science. I'm not saying that it's not built on ideas of science, but just not everything. Like when you study eddy currents, there's nothing scientific about that.
It's
Building the
usually
coffee machine is
let me
technology.
just try, Adam. It's usually the other way around, right? So it's not that the technology can be described as science when it isn't, because it isn't. But there's a good chance, like with computers, that the science will lead to the technological trial and error that gives us things that are useful. So the applied technology comes from the science in many instances. And there's often, like I was going to go on with the Wright brothers, examples where you can say, no, to understand how to get into the air, they are actually applying cause and effect reasoning. So therefore, you can categorize some of the things they must have done to establish how that effect is achieved. In other words, know how to cause it. That's why I use them as an example. It doesn't necessarily mean that they've gone through the strictest of methodology and gone, oh, I wonder how that bird's flying. Yeah, they may have asked themselves that question, but they haven't then gone forth and said, I will vary this independent variable. They've done it through trial and error. But ultimately, they've still, even in a vague, more wishy-washy way, gone through the very steps that we describe through trial and error. So you can say, no, they had established the cause of the effect. And once they established it, there was no going back. There was no, oh, well, we're not going to understand the Bernoulli effect, I think is what it's called. Right, well, understanding the cause of that effect is what got people in the air. So can you call that science? Yeah. Was there the strictest adherence to the method? No. But could somebody then package it up to adhere to the method? Definitely. I think that's where Adam's going. Adam, do you want to take over from next?
I'll stick with airplanes and Bernoulli, yeah. So you could take that knowledge about pressure differentials and how as air passes over, the flow will create that differential, which creates uplift. So you've got that knowledge, that cause and effect. You can then take that to a wind tunnel, can't you? And have all the different technological designs that aren't based on science. You've got the science knowledge that you want to create uplift, yeah? And now you're going to use technology to see what's the most efficient way of doing that. You're not science in the wing per se. You've taken that knowledge. A lot of it's going to be like, say, trial and error. That's why we have a wind tunnel. How will it work in reality?
Well, you could, as part of it, you could travel in a car, put your hand out the window, and slightly turn the front of your hand, the thumb side, slightly turn that up the way, and observe your hand going up, and then slightly turn it down the way and observe your arm
That's
hand being
lovely.
pushed back down.
The Irish are so easily entertained. Quick shout out to us so far. Hello, love the show. Someone mentioned that the globe head's measurement to Venus had something to do with Easter. Could you elaborate on that connection? I certainly can. So Dr. John Dee sent me a book called The Sun in the Church that explained how the church basically, through Kepler's assumptions of orbital motions and the elliptical orbital motions that were assumed, were done because they couldn't, or they were incorrectly tracking when Easter would be, because they didn't have accurate predictions for the luminary alignment. So in order to better figure out when that would occur, Kepler was employed, and his use of his interplanetary motion system was what gave him the scale. Now, where Venus comes in is Huygens, which is considerably more recent, I believe. But the assumption to nail down the value to the sun in the current heliocentric model is based on those scale values that we used to predict when those lights would be in those patterns, so that the church would know when Easter was going to be, so that they could say, after this next full moon, that next weekend, the Sunday will be Easter. But not getting it right meant they couldn't say to the people, this is when Easter will be, and it's entirely based on the patterns of the lights in the sky. So that's where Kepler comes in. But Venus comes in with the application of Earth's radius to Venus, because with that scale developed by Kepler, you can better or more accurately determine when the alignments will be, but it doesn't tell you anything about distance. So you have to make an assumption in terms of something, either the actual size of one of the items that you're measuring, or the distance between yourself and it. In other words, in terms of the way you'd get a triangulatable value, you've got to know one of them before you start making the measurements. Well, if you don't know one of them, the next best thing for a heliocentrist is just assume Venus is the same R-value as Earth. And
then that's not science.
Well, no, it's an assumption by Huygens. But I'm just answering so far's super chat question. A big shout out to John D, because the majority of that story I had bits and pieces of, but it was only when he sent me that book, and he didn't even leave me with why he was sending it me. He just sent it to me. But then you read it and go, oh, right, this is the condensed, concise versions of what we talk about on the show on a regular basis. Because his lead-in, I think, was that you might know all of this stuff already. Now, the answer was no, I didn't know all of it already, far from it. But the general gist of what it was getting at and driving at, yes, I'd got a vague idea about most of it, but I hadn't sort of put it in the connections that the book had just laid it out. So that's the book that John D sent me, which was The Sun in the Church. There you go. Thank you for the super chatters so far.
That's the Western view, because we switched calendars as well.
I was going to ask that.
The Jews don't have this problem. They run a moon-based calendar, which means it does Passover moves every year. So if you base it around that, it will move and does move. So with respect to the Orthodox Church, they have a different Easter to us because of this. Because what we've done is force it into this. Well, first of all, the Julian calendar and then the Gregorian shift, which is why it was difficult, because all these are based on the sun, which is a yearly cycle, but you need 13 to keep the sun and the moon. I think it's 13, Brian will probably correct me. Sun and the moon aligned, which is why for others it moves, but we try to fix it based on the sun, you see, which is why they were trying to use those stars to give it a date in the solar year, as opposed to it just having its date in the lunar solar cycles. Done.
So yeah, I mean, the legitimacy of this predicting or this prediction-based system developed by Kepler, from what I read, it wasn't in any way designed to be reified. It was using maths to predict when the lights would be lining up the way they thought they would be. Now, it doesn't alter what the heliocentric system, in this case Kepler's development thereof with elliptical motion for Easter, is. It wasn't necessarily suggested at any point to me in the book that I can remember that they were intentionally attempting to reify this into the world we were standing on. It was being described that way, but it wasn't necessarily even inferred that that was a suggestion of what we were standing on. Like I say, it was just to predict when Easter would come. Now, you fast forward to now, and we're standing on a reified version of that model, that was enhanced with elliptical motion by Kepler at that point. But maybe I could throw this out to the panel. Would you infer in any way that the reification upon development of something like this, so picture you as Kepler developing this and coming up with a way that they might move to better understand how they'll line up in the future, would that mean just by virtue of him inventing it that he automatically assumes it to be the case and therefore Kepler is, in his mind's eye, standing on a sphere? What do you guys think?
Well, Kepler might have already pre-assumed he was on a sphere, because I don't know if Brahe and people that came before Kepler and Copernicus, if they were presuming the Earth was a sphere. I don't know that. It's just kind of claimed they were. Kepler got all the information concerning the sun's path throughout the year from astrology. That's where he originally got it, because he was an astrologer, and that's where that information was originally catalogued. Because astrology came before astronomy. Astronomy was taught to people like Kepler after they learned astrology or through astrology. But the point is, the point I'm making is that where Newton's claims of a force of gravity come from, or well, not his claims, but what he's postulated, originated with ideas from Kepler. Kepler was his inspiration. Well, Kepler talked about the movements and what's causing them to move. Now, I don't know, obviously with Kepler, it had to involve us moving around the sun as well, because it was the Copernican model that he amalgamated with the original, what would have been the original solar analemma, which would be observations of what the sun is doing in the sky above us, where the sun is going and the sun is moving to at different times of the year. So he would have pre-assumed that we were moving and on a globe to do that. That's the only way he would have been able to.
I get that, and that was very well put and detailed. But I'm saying, for you to fundamentally alter how a model works. Now, when I see Wakey's interview with that astrophysicist, that lady, and she quite crass in the way she says, we'll just change the model if there's a fault with it. Now, for her, I appreciate, no, she does actually think that model does represent the sphere that she's standing on. That I can get. But when it comes to Kepler, when you're starting with fundamental ideas that are relatively new, and you're making alterations to them to better make predictions with, that doesn't... I know you're saying, no, I'm going to have to make us move around the sun for this to be making logical sense. Does that mean he actually thinks that's the case, though? Or is it just a way of looking at things to make a better prediction? We'll never know. We're only ever going to postulate. But I don't know. It's just... as a flat earther, I now find it a stretch, even when I look back on the history of these people, to say, so does that really mean he conjured a ground below his feet that was spherical at that point when he started making these assertions? Copernicus or Kepler or any of them?
Historically, Brahe and Kepler clashed on the claim that the Earth, as a globe or whatever, was moving around the sun, that the sun was at the center, because Brahe was a geocentrist. So that's one of their biggest clashes, the fact that one was a geocentrist according to history, and one had this new Copernican model. Now, who was Copernicus? That's really the thing, I don't know. It's hard to believe that somebody would kind of look at the sun moving around and then start trying to claim that we were moving around it.
Exactly.
It makes no logical sense.
Exactly.
Hold on a second.
Hold on. I just want to stay with Brian for a minute because he's on the same tip as me. Right, exactly. So as a flat earther, you look back and try and empathize, conceptualize, put yourself in their position, however you want to phrase it. And it's a stretch for me to actually take the step of reification for them when they're making fundamental changes to the model and perhaps arguing, as you're describing, the difference between us fundamentally fixed in place and us physically hurtling around the sun. Now, when you're arguing about things that are so, fundamentally opposed to each other, now, I get that they are just describing mathematical models, and they would obviously have understood that while they developed the maths for it. And the two opposing models doesn't necessarily mean as they use them to describe how the sun or lights in the sky are going to line up, doesn't necessarily, or it's a stretch for me to say, well, that automatically means that when he said that, oh no, where everyone understood that we were currently motionless, now we're going thousands of miles an hour. And I actually physically do mean that we are moving, the ground is now moving 1,000 miles an hour for me to put this model forth to better make a prediction of when Easter will be, for instance. I think that's a stretch.
Are we talking about the globe or just its movement? Because didn't they consider the sphere to be the shape of the gods or something like that?
Well, no. They thought it was based on measure.
Go on, John.
They thought it was based on measurement. They thought they were measuring it as a sphere. That's like every citation you find what talks about the dip correction is for a sphere. Even in the celestial navigation books, they'll have that model that's misinterpreted. So I
realise that. And every reference I give to Kepler or Copernicus will directly reference them talking about Earth physically being a sphere. So people are probably listening going, what, is he gone mad? How can he even infer that they wouldn't be suggesting that when that is directly what they're saying? And it's because after a few years of being a flat earther, even conceptually reifying this from its origins, it's so difficult. So to have the empathy to go, oh yeah, he fundamentally made us physically move, the ground physically move where it was once stationary in all models. You go, so what, he literally started making the ground hurtle around the sun? It just doesn't compute in my mind anymore. It's such a difficult thing to wrap my head around. I know he's literally saying it, by the way. I'm not stupid.
Right, but the thing is you're using your present knowledge and understanding and trying to use that to think how he thought. I don't think it's possible.
I know.
We can't know.
Yeah, but after the shit that happened with Newton, with him saying, don't ascribe this nonsensical gravity to me, and look what happened. They ascribed it to him. I'm more along the lines of, I don't know, like, obviously I can't divine these guys' thoughts, but I don't know if he established to himself that he was on a sphere. Maybe he just said maybe it could go either way. It's just a good idea. And then the people that come after these people will use that to further their narrative, right? Because that's what they did with Newton.
Exactly.
Look at Einstein.
Yes.
Einstein said, "Oh, there's no optical experiment, whatever that is, that you can do to tell if it's the sun moving or if it's us moving." But they'll still tell you, "Oh, well, he thought that it was us moving around the sun." Right? So I'm with that. It could go either way. I think it's just the people that want to use the narrative of these guys that the shoulders of the giants that they stand upon to use to further their narrative. Maybe that's just my opinion, but I don't know.
Can I just follow on with that? I want to go full conspiratard mode.
You can, I think, D-Rose, you can just after D-Rose. Go ahead, D-Rose.
No, I think you're right, Chocolate, because I think I said that one time before. I said, because especially when y'all started exposing the Newtonian actual philosophy of his own conjecture and how they bastardized it and they butchered it and they made it just convenient for their own heresy. I think they did the same thing in this manner because It might have been an idea. It might have been one of those what ifs. And they took it from the 20th century and they bastardized it because these men are not allowed to attest for their own statements. And these heliocentric proponents are now using their thing, actually lying and putting words, embellishing basically what these guys are really trying to say, because they weren't making any claims of a sphere, more than likely. They were just giving you different ideas of maybe this is how it is, and maybe this
Well,
is
I don't
how
know
it is.
about that.
Well, I agree with you entirely. I mean, it was other than it was Eli you were talking to, but if you can get those two together, eventually you'll figure it out eventually one day.
Damn it!
Who was in the shock at the moment?
I know you didn't just call me Eli.
I did intentionally, yes, just for a joke. Anyway, Adam, go ahead.
I think we've just been pondering the minds of these men. What men? We've got books, yeah. I would just point out this is a way of creating a paradigm shift. Heroes just mentioned their heresy. Yeah, it was their heresy, yet they're funded by the church. This, to me, is just a literary setup for a future paradigm. I don't necessarily think these people have to have even existed. A bit like Aristophanes, Tesla. All of these people help paradigm shifts. Do they actually exist in the format we're giving them? No. Do they need to? No. What's their purpose? It's to further a paradigm shift. And the contradictory nature of their funding and ability to survive even during rather puritanical times where heresy was delivered with death. Then the church then accept and adopt these philosophies as we move forward into the new paradigm, which we then have come the 17th century. So I would just consider that rather than trying to consider the mind of a man, maybe consider whether that man even existed. Was he even necessary?
Right, so
Why
it's
does it sound
probably
like you guys
propaganda. It's propaganda
Owen.
story to cover for the shift of policy, basically.
Well, I was going to go to the 1984 quote, but I can't quite remember it correctly. It's something along the lines of, "He who controls the past controls the present, and he who controls the present controls the future." Something along those lines.
You guys are trying to
Yeah,
let
we
these
were
guys.
always
Why
at
are you
war with
letting them off
these
the
days,
hook?
yeah.
Sounds like you want them off the hook.
He who
No,
controls.
that's not what happened.
Go on, John.
Well, let me throw something out
Hold
there.
on, Neil. Hold on, Brian. Go ahead, John.
I think it goes, he who controls the past controls the present. He who controls the present controls the future.
Yeah, that's what I thought it was. Go ahead, Brian.
Who's it trying to let
Did y'all
these
ever
guys
hear-
off the hook?
It's not that. Did you not listen to Adam? It's not that we're trying to let Newton or Brahe or any of these people off the hook, so to speak, right? Adam's point, very well made, by the way, Adam, was that these people may not have even existed. It's not relevant. The point is that how these people are being discussed, back to Chocolate's point, it may even be the case that you can find personal documents from individuals who are held up as poster childs for gravity or the globe or heliocentrism in general, and they oppose it for the very thing that they're being praised for. So in that respect, you can say, look, this person was opposed to this mass attracting mass nonsense, but yet it's given his name. It's called Newtonian gravity. Now, maybe that's just some psychopath having a laugh. Oh, you object to it, do you? I'll give it your name then. See how you like that. Maybe. It's not relevant. The point is, the stories that we are told about how these people came to these conclusions, in this case, great super chat, by the way, whoever it was, I've forgotten your name, I'll shout you out again, I'm going to scroll back up. So, us so far, great super chat, right? It shows people how the stories, we could parallel it with a different story so it's not so close to the bone, and say, if for the sake of argument we were all being encouraged to be extremely charitable and condescending of people with a lot of money, it might be that Robin Hood becomes a character in the history narrative in a very different way in order to control the public. Now, that's all we're talking about when we talk about heliocentrism. It's just a control method. Let's not dress it up more than what it is. Yeah, they spend billions of money. I'm going to recommend one of Russian Vid's recent videos. I think it was in response to Creaky Blinder, but it just happened to be, I think when people respond to others in videography terms on YouTube, they just get so much more concise. You know, they focus in on one particular aspect, and that was Russian Vid's in his most recent video. It was excellent. Go and check out Russian Vid's most recent response to Creaky Blinder, where he's talking about how the systems of government and so on spend huge chunks of money just to manipulate the mind of the public, to control you. Now, people don't necessarily draw the parallel between that and things like the church with Easter and heliocentrism and space. They don't necessarily appreciate that, yeah, that is where the mind control money's going. But it doesn't just extend to the current narrative with SpaceX and NASA. It goes back in time. Does it matter that the characters that we're told about today with the books appreciated that they were just coming up with models, if they even existed? No. We are told that the objection at this time was whether or not we're stationary, geocentric, and all the stars are moving around us, or the new hotness of heliocentrism, with elliptical motions and us flying at thousands of miles an hour around the sun, by way of a model without necessarily giving distances, just scale, for Earth as a sphere moving around the sun. That's the current story. That means that you can control what happens in the future. Where are we going in the future? Mars? Yeah, he who controls the past controls the present, and therefore controls the future. If you believe that to be sustaining life, you need to bugger off into the sky, that's because you are under the control system that has started its origins. Yeah, like X-Men and Wolverine, when they show you where he came from. That's all we're doing. It doesn't matter that the story of Wolverine may have plot holes and flaws. It's irrelevant. All that's relevant is where we are today, therefore where we're going to be in 20 years' time. Are we all going to be jumping onto a rocket ship going to the moon? Definitely not. But people think they are, don't they? And that's what we're really discussing here. Sure, you've all got
King
to
Arthur,
Go ahead,
Nathan,
Adam.
is a good example. How you can change a whole nation. So, Neil, where's King Arthur from?
England.
Yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? Except, of course, he doesn't exist prior to Geoffrey of Monmouth writing about him. And lots of historians at the time asking, where's this history from? He doesn't exist in English history until he's invented. Now, it's not a total invention. Yeah. So he's then put in and written in, why? To create a nation of the English to unify behind a great majestical court that used to exist that set standards. And that's what unifies British Knights going forward, that story, that tale. But it does not exist prior to the 9th century. And it's a construct of the state to unify the state. Now, it adopts other stories and things to wipe out history as well, and restructure history, so the existing history becomes our own as well. But that's a good example of something you would assume, but if you look into it, you can see it's just constructed history and fundamentally adopted history.
Well, that's mythology. That's technically
Yes, Arwin.
mythology.
Yeah, but
hold on. Go ahead, Arwin. Go ahead, Arwin.
But that's technically everything you described is summarized in one word: mythology.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what that is. And mythology writes our hearts and minds. When we get the thought about mythology, it's very inspiring because that's the purpose of it.
It's also the title. What's the system called? Heliocentric.
And mythology is probably a good word for this nonsense because, this is why I'm okay with saying I don't know if history that we've been told is okay, because how many times have we heard, oh, we've known for thousands of years that it's a globe and everyone's known, and the Greeks 2,000 years ago, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but then you'll have things that happen, like, I don't know, newspapers 100 years ago saying that people were getting arrested for teaching the globe. You got a lady that's still alive that said she was being taught flat earth when she was a kid. Like, things like that happen, it's like, do I really keep going with the history that I've been told, or is it actually just that his story? I
Yeah,
don't
Brian.
know.
Hold on, Brian's been trying to get a word in for
Yeah.
ages. Go ahead.
Yeah, just something contradictory to do with Kepler and his analemma. Now, I stated earlier that Kepler learned astronomy through astrology. But Kepler was renowned for his astrological charts after his analemma times. Kepler was renowned for, like, people used to pay a lot of money for him to do birth charts, what's known as an astrological birth chart. Now, the reason I'm saying this is that we know astrology is purely based on cycles. Cycles, just like they use it. And it's part of the astrological system of cycles. Parts of that are used for celestial navigation, for whatever amount of stars, the 64 stars, whatever can be used for celestial navigation. Those 64 stars are based on cycles, and they can give you 50,000 years into the future. Those predictions, or not predictions, those cycles, right? They'll never change, right? Ted Mann will attest to this. He spoke with the correct people and got that information. So the point I'm making is this: there's a girl. I'm feeding back on someone there. There's a girl online. I can't remember. I think her name is Sadie or something. And I listened to her years ago before I got into Flat Earth. And she was an astrologer, and she's in her 60s or early 70s. So she was an astrologer since she was in her 20s or something, if I remember correctly. So she was decades and decades and decades at astrology. When she came across Flat Earth back in probably 2015, 16 time, she changed from a glober to a flat earther immediately. She said that treating the Earth not just as a globe, but a stationary globe, but as a flat plane that's completely separate to the reference frame above us. And doing astrology that way is far more correct. It's far more precise, she said. Everything is better. So why would Kepler, just going back on what we were talking about with Kepler, why would Kepler, having this knowledge of astrology and how to do astrology, why would he suddenly go along with this Copernican model and have us on a rotating globe that's also orbiting a central sun, blah, blah, blah? It doesn't make logical sense if he existed and was an astrologer that he would do that, as it's anti-astrology, because it makes astrology more difficult to do it that way.
It
I
kind
wanted
of
to
sounds
mention
like
something real
this.
quick. I just wanted to mention something real quick. What we was talking about with the Catholic Church, the Spanish Inquisition, the doctrine of discovery, unum sanctum, all those policies that were done back by the Bishopra and the Papal Bulls and all that. There's a term for the reason why we have these books that popped up out of nowhere, or these books that can't be found, or these names of these people. There's a term in Latin called indexum prohibitorium, indexum librorum prohibitorium, and then there's indexum liberatorium expurgatorium, which is basically the burning of the books. Where it happened, Alexandria and all of that. But a lot of these books, a lot of the history of the ancients were destroyed during the conquest of the crusade of the Catholicism and the Catholic Church just sweeping across the earth and just wiping out, taking over things. So a lot of times that switch, that reset, that new paradigm switch you're talking about, that could be a lot to do with how this heliocentric thing came about and took over what is said to be known as the ancients knew, according to their symbols and their hieroglyphics, or whatever you want to call it, the writings on the walls, yada yada, they are pro flat earth. They're pro earth flame, they're pro firmament, all of these things that are all in sync, from the Veda to the Septuagint, the Waspi, from the Torah, Tanakh, the Bible, King James, all that. They're all unified, saying the same thing. But this heliocentric thing came out of nowhere. And I think it has to do, like what Nathan was saying, the whole connection from long time ago, during this whole reset, when it was just conquest of the church, the taking over and pushing this new agenda and this new propaganda. And it just slowly, we don't know the time exactly, but we definitely know that a lot of this stuff started happening from the turn of the 19th into the 20th century. And that's why you have that Catholic priest in black and white film doing what he was doing, on that video that we all saw before. But that's what happened with the reset, burning of the books and put up some new books to say this is the new agenda. This is what it is. This is the propaganda.
Good segue for me to shout out the over 100 people watching. So we may actually extend today's live show. So I've spent several days now stress testing the computer synthetically, which is nothing like doing it for real. So I'm going to extend today's live show. So please smash the share button. I'm going to give today's show the title, Why Do People Think They Live on a Sphere? Because this has been a really good exploratory discussion of exactly that. So I'm going to give it that title. And hopefully we continue the discussion beyond the hour mark. But in case we do have a catastrophic failure of the computer, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. Obviously, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show that will continue, possible. But should there be a failure, I just want to thank everyone before, just in case this is the point that everything goes wrong. But as I say, we will continue to be live, but just to get everyone in the mood of an after show vibe, that's me rounding out. There won't be an outro. So yeah, we'll have an extended live show, guys.
I want to say we're dancing a lot in the unknown, especially like throwing out all of history is. I don't know if I'm prepared to do that.
But it doesn't matter either way. Did you not, Adam? Can you reiterate your point? Because it doesn't matter either way. They may have existed. It doesn't matter.
The way, what matters much more is that how it is presented. That is what really matters. How it is presented tells you why they rolled it out, to what end. Yes, how would that influence people reading about it? Like mythology influences those that read about it.
It's a bugger that you had a good point, because you were interrupting Adam. I was hoping he'd lead off. But yes, good point, Adam. Also, shout out to Rinsler. Woohoo! $50. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
I'm not Adam.
I know you're not Adam. Shout out super chat.
That was the point of the sarcasm.
It was still a good point. It was a worthy interruption, is what I was trying to get at. But nevertheless, irritating for Adam. But I'm going to shout out Rinsler, which will also be irritating. But Adam, for me, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support. People keep asking why or how Truman Show. People accept the world as it is presented. Yeah, exactly.
Because they were told to. They were called
exactly. Because that's right? The world that you are experiencing. You know, it's suspension of disbelief when it comes to the globe, because you accept that you are in that world when you see Superman flying around it, or you see spacemen flying around it.
But it starts with you have to learn things from your parents. So you go by what your parents tell you. That's how it all starts up. And they basically hijack that necessary mechanism for people to grow up.
Okay.
They hijack it and then force you to retain that trust in them as a priesthood forever.
Yeah, we got it. Thank you. Just one sec. Neil and Arwin, just one sec. Yes, further to John's point in regards to he's not willing to take it as far as to say I reject various aspects of history that may have primary source evidence to back it, or even evidence that goes back 200 or 300 years to back it. Either way, I want Adam to reiterate his point, because not to make his point moot, that's perfectly acceptable. Fine, I acknowledge your point, John. But Adam, go ahead.
I'd probably just draw it back to the 1984. Really, all we know for certain, whether you want to boo-hoo history, question it, rewrite it yourself, all you know is the story you're given right now as to why we get there. That is sufficient for me, and especially when I look at it and the way it's constructed and what it's constructed to give me. I love these fantastical tales, and the more you look at them, like I say, the more you analyze how this thing came about in the times it came about, the more fantastical it becomes. And just use that as caution. Yeah. What's its purpose?
Exactly. Analyze the motivation.
You live on a ball.
Exactly. Analyze the motivation of the story. Why is the story being disseminated to me? Not what's the origin story or the validation of the story or the validation of the characters in the story. Why am I being told this story? What's the purpose of me being told this story?
But hold on a second. Hold on. How do you validate history?
Bloody
You
what?
can't.
Well, you do primary source research. It's a different standard of evidence, but that's not what we're discussing today. Shout out to Theo Megaworthy. He says, how many curvilinear radii do historical doctors have? I assume that's a joke. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
And by the way, you accept the world that you live in because I learned it in school and my parents learned it in school. That's what they gave us. That's what they taught us. We didn't just come up with it ourselves.
You have to tell the lie often. You have to make it big, make it often. Some Nazi propaganda technique. Completely overwhelm the subject with the information. Have globes everywhere, space everywhere.
Well, you hit it right in the head because that's what they do. They have globes everywhere, space everywhere.
Just to add to the history bit, I'm not necessarily poo-pooing all the Kappa stuff, but if you put it into context, and we spoke earlier, somebody mentioned about, well, I was taught flat Earth as a young child, some old woman, and all these anecdotal things that, from a history point of view, are just as valid as Kepler. The history we're given today is, I would suggest, is different using Kepler. We're told that at this point now, it was the progression, the realization of the ancient knowledge that it was retarded, that it was a flat Earth. And by Kepler's time, we already kind of knew it was a ball. Yet we've got this contradictory personal statements from people saying, no, no, it was still taught to me as a child. The history we're given today, I would suggest, regarding Kepler, may be different and used differently to how it was used to that child that was taught flat Earth at school in the late early 1900s. It's how they it goes to 84. They control it. So how they use those documents, could be written to you that in 200 years' time, when it's accepted as flat, that these people were heretics, and they could rewrite the history that they were heretics and they were held for that. The documents just describe what they think.
Theo Megaworthy, sorry to interrupt. Theo Megaworthy via the super chat, just clarifying that when he said documents, docs, that's what he was talking about. Anyway, sorry to interrupt. Thanks for the super chat, Theo Megaworthy.
That was it.
Sorry, Adam.
No, that's it. I'm just saying we're given the intonation of the history. You look at history now, people will have varying different opinions on the same document and what it means. Yeah, we've been documents that are contradictory to the current rhetoric. History is terrible for that. Yeah. So
I'm gonna have to get brutal.
We're fed his story, and the point I'm making is his story is current to is relative to the current narrative. It's important to demonstrate that people realised how retarded flat Earth was hundreds of years ago, even though we've got evidence to the contrary. That maybe wasn't what people were taught 150 years ago, even though today we're taught they were.
All right, we are fed, right? That is a certain connotation to it. So who are they? Who are these people?
Whoever we assume to be disseminating the information.
History.
Yeah.
Who are they?
I don't know them personally. But when we use that term, we're talking about the construct, aren't we? The construct that's given, the construct that's being given now in terms of flat Earth history and the development of the globe. That's in the kind of textbooks as what's been agreed. How did it get there? How did we develop? Well, we've got that history of Kepler, haven't we? And on all these bits we've been discussing, that's the history we've got now.
Shout out to Original D Rose. It says Index Liberonium Prohibitorum, aka Censorship Index. I can't read this. This is just what it's in Latin, presumably.
Forum Prohibitorum,
aka burning the books. Thank you for the super chat, D Rose.
Right. So we're being fed. That's who's feeding us. We're putting up this ambiguous idea of these devious people tapping their fingers together. I don't like where this is going. I'm sorry. I'm not going to agree.
It's the
But that's
hidden
what they
hand.
did.
Okay,
John,
let me ask you a
just
question.
buy into our conspiratard nonsense for a bit. It's fun. The hidden hand, for God's
technically,
sake.
that's
The
what
hidden
they did.
hand.
Let me ask John a
Whose
question.
hand?
John, now I'm not on either side of the fence here, right? Because I just take their claims and I debunk them. That's all I ever do, right? But Nathan said something earlier, I've heard said many times, that the Nazis supposedly, and I heard it as Hitler supposedly said, to make a lie big and keep saying it, right? Have you any evidence that that was from them?
Did I make a claim that it was?
I'm not asking you for, it's not, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I'm trying to make a point. The point I'm
not
making is,
making any claim.
hang on. The point I'm making is, I could restate that exact thing that Nathan stated, and 100 other people could restate that in a week. But I have never seen any evidence that it actually came from them, from the source they're claiming it came from. I
Goebbels.
haven't seen evidence of that. Yeah, but where's the evidence of it?
On propaganda
Well,
sheets.
why are you directing this at me? I'm not making a claim about any of it. I don't get it.
The point I'm making is we just pre-assume stuff and go along with it. Now, I don't know whether that did or didn't come from the Nazis. I don't know if it did or didn't. I know I'm told it did, and I just pre-assume it did, and I'll state it as if it did. But it may be, this pre-assumption of stuff is the problem. Not,
Well,
not, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's fed to us, right? That this is what was said, right? So we take it as law.
Is Brian trying to make my point, which is to say that it makes no difference if Goebbels even existed in this example? Because the point about making the lie big, it is a big lie. Telling it often, it is told often. And people buying it, they definitely do, is still completely valid regardless of my source. You know, the source material or its validation doesn't invalidate the point I made. Maybe that's the point you're making, or maybe you're disagreeing with that point, in which case, fine, just tell me so we understand where this conversation is going.
The statement is a statement of fact. But maybe, like, the lie is that it is the source it came from. Maybe that's part of this. Maybe that's part of the joke, is that the source they say it came from, it didn't come from at all. That's only a big lie.
Right, okay.
That everyone keeps repeating. So believing. No, maybe it did come from them, but it doesn't change the validity of the statement. Just 1 second, Adam. It doesn't change the validity of the statement. The point is we pre-assume straight away because of the history we are given. But I know that there's kids being taught history now in school that is different from what I was taught 3-4 decades ago.
Well, think about that. Hold on, think about that. Look what they're teaching now about 9/11. They'll tell you that hijackers came in, overthrew planes, and crashed them into buildings. Is that true?
Doesn't matter whether it's true, does it? It doesn't matter at all. The point I maybe try and reiterate. What I'm making is what is it trying to make you think? What does it do for society? Well, as I said with King Arthur, yeah, you can see what it does there. Yeah, you can see what Kepler's doing. You can see 9/11. What did that do? That justified attacking a different Arabian country. It was put there, whether it's true, false, or whatever. What the government did with that history, yeah, was use it to motivate a will to attack another country, separate country. Yeah,
I agree.
How they used it. So the truth of 9/11 is kind of irrelevant to what the government do.
You'll pay attention to what Adam just says.
But what I'm trying to say is that that's being taught.
Yeah,
it's being taught today is history.
What Adam's trying to get at is it doesn't necessarily matter if the event happens, right? Because in terms of the suspension of disbelief, which is all it would be at that point, it's still having the same effect. It's like a placebo. You're saying, well, if the event didn't happen, well did people not get behind the purpose of the event and what it was used to motivate people to do, or did they just do it anyway? Therefore, it makes no difference if the event happened, because the event was successful if it's only being used to make people do a certain thing. Now, in the case of the globe, we are being controlled. It's no different when it comes to the globe. So therefore, does it matter whether or not the stories of Kepler are true, or if Kepler even existed? No, it doesn't. Do people get told the stories so that they appreciate that they're on a spinning ball flying through a space vacuum? Yeah, they do.
Yeah, but the
I
fact of the
won't.
matter is, hold on 1 second. The fact of the matter is that's being taught in school today as history. So how do I know what I was taught in school as history happened the way it happened?
You don't. But hold on a sec. Hold on. The thing is, the quote that Brian gave about the big lie was not from Joseph Goebbels. You can find it in Mein Kampf by Adolf Hitler. Now, do I know the guy, Adolf Hitler, that wrote the book so I can say for sure that Adolf Hitler said that? No, I don't know that. We're talking about a different standard of evidence, though, right?
Yeah, but what was the context he used it in that book?
He was talking about the Jews. He was talking about the Jews.
So he wasn't making it as a statement that people should do it.
No, he wasn't talking about his regime. He was using it as an attack on the Jewish people. It is not a Goebbels quote. That's been misconstrued. I don't know who brought that up.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is now with a bit of context, it doesn't come from, it's not like the statement of the Nazi said that you should make a big lie and keep saying it to make the lie happen. That is, with context, not true, is it? The context of it is that he was referring to the Jewish people at the time and things to do with them. He wasn't making it, he wasn't telling people that they should make a big lie and keep saying it. So there you go. So straight away, people, when they people regurgitate that, and they call it a quote, and they don't put any context around it. No, I'm not trying to defend Hitler. The point I'm making is the way people regurgitate that and the way it's portrayed is not correct historically, is it?
Yes, it is. You all just got it wrong.
Well, how did we get it wrong?
Oh, God, this is going to segue away from the actual point now, isn't it, John? Just be careful.
No, y'all said Goebbels said it. He did not.
I didn't say Goebbels.
I did. I got it wrong. Okay, I acknowledge it.
Yeah,
Will that stop us going on this segue?
Who cares who said it?
I got it wrong.
Who cares who said it?
I got it wrong. I'm just going to acknowledge that to hopefully stop the conversation from veering off onto this, whether or not I'm right about.
No, but this is good, Nathan. This is good because you said Goebbels said it. I said you originally said the Nazis. I said I heard it was Hitler. You said Goebbels. So I could have just not known any better and gone along with you, and then I'm telling someone else some other time that Joseph Goebbels said blah 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 when he didn't say it, and even the context that Hitler said it in. The context. Just 1 second. The context.
Hold on, guys. Let Brian go.
Just 1 second. Yeah. The context at which Hitler even used it was not to tell people to tell big lies and keep telling them. That wasn't the context. He was referring to something else. So my point is that straight away we've taken something that we all presumed was historical fact. We didn't even know the correct source or the context, and we just went along with it. And that's not the Nazis only several decades ago, really. So how easily can history be completely misconstrued and manipulated?
But how quickly did I correct it by just looking it up?
I'm not sure of the point.
That's not the.
Yeah. Just that's the primary. That's all it is. It's still attributed to the same group of people. And the point of all of this is, forget the quote. What did these lies allow the state to get the people to do, if we're referring to Nazi Germany? How did this misconstruement of history that they presented, particularly with regards to the Jewish people and the history of the German people, their Aryan ancestry and the primacy that supposedly gave them, what did that motivate and allow them to do to the people? What mindset did that put the people in to allow them to be controlled? That would be the biggest thing to look at, irrespective of who said what exactly. What were they saying it for?
Right. But my point is if you go to the primary source of evidence, you don't get confused or tricked by those things. Then you know what that person is cited as saying. But just accepting what someone else says as quoted history is the problem that we're facing.
Yeah, but the problem is also what you just said, because there's no context given with that quote. It's spun in such a way that people are under the impression that Adolf Hitler, with his book, was telling people, you should make these big lies and keep telling them to fool everyone. Whereas that wasn't the context it was used in. So the context of it is being manipulated. And you're saying primary source evidence. Well, I can go to the primary source evidence for Kepler. That doesn't make the Earth a globe that goes around the sun.
Hold on. No, but if you went to the primary source evidence, you would know the context of what it was being said in. That's my point. So you wouldn't be fooled if you did that. But people don't. So they're fooled.
Point taken.
That's why I had said, that's why I put up the thing, indexum librorum prohibitorum. That's basically CNN and all these mainstream media basically putting out a narrative, while those who do know the primary source of the facts are censored. The ones that did do the research that went against the narrative, they're being censored. That's the prohibitorium. Then you have the index librorum expurgatorium. That's where they destroy the person or the person's contents that's going up against the mainstream narrative, whether it be back in the days of the pharaohs and the popes, or whether it goes to now with these Peters, these so-called presidents. What they say goes. Anybody that goes against it is vilified, scrutinized, demonized, and considered an outcast or either executed, one or the other. But it's going to be some type of expurgatorius that's going to happen.
Well, history is always written by the victors. So if the victors decide not to be honest, which is most likely they won't, the history you get is what they decide to give it.
Facts.
Well, I think it's the ideological problem right there, because history is written by the winning ideology. They're the ones that control history, is the ideology, not necessarily some dude that's tapping his fingers together. It's the way in which they perceive the world, the people that give you the history. So I think that's what the problem is their ideology is corrupted.
I heard mention earlier of a heliocentric model, I think. Can someone send me a link, please? 'Cause I've never seen it.
I've just had to look up this Goebbels Hitler thing. The big
I
lie.
posted it in Master D, Adam. A couple of quotes.
I was just reading. I've gone from the Jewish Virtual Library just to see. So it's taken from Mein Kampf. It's difficult to attribute that a specific quote to Goebbels, but he does reference it in a letter to the English, accusing the English of it, which is interesting. He says the English follow the principle that when one lies, one should lie big and stick to it. So he is quoted of using it. So it appears to be a quote that's around, used by both sides.
Quick shout out to Theo Megawerty. He says, how about someone read from the primary source document? Yeah, it makes sense, especially as we're preaching it, Theo. Thank you for the super chat.
I've got the quote from Mein Kampf.
One second. Brian's point is misplaced, was the other super chat from Theo Megawerty. Thank you very much for the super chats. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I'll read the full quote if you wish. If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it. The lie can be maintained only for such time as the state can shield the people from the political, economic, and/or military consequences of the lie. It thus becomes vitally important for the state to use all of its powers to repress dissent from the truth of the mortal enemy of the lie, and thus, by extension, the truth is the greatest enemy of the state. And with that, I just reiterate, why is the state lying? It tells you there. The lie is kind of irrelevant. It doesn't matter even if it's true. Look at what the state is doing it for. Yeah. And what it has to do to maintain the lie, to maintain control. That's what it's telling you. Forget what the lie is. Yeah. Recognize it's a lie and what's its political purpose. What does it allow the state to do to the populace? or get them
Right.
to do.
But that's just confusing a paraphrase of that quotation with a letter that was sent to the English
Yeah, but
with a paraphrase that cites that source.
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same thing.
Like I say, I feel you're focusing on
Me
trying
too.
to attribute this as opposed to dealing with what the phrase actually means, which is, I think, more relevant in the conversation we've been having.
Absolutely, we went off the rails. I'm glad we got to the conclusion, but ultimately that is exactly right, Adam. We're talking about how is the information being used, not the validity of the sources.
Right. But even in that, right, if you want to hold on to the idea that he who controls the present controls the past, and he who controls the past controls the future, then wars, real wars, where control can be lost or gained, don't exist in your paradigm. They can't, because control's already been had.
Sorry. What's the problem with that? In terms of what
Okay.
might or might not have happened, history is controlled by the victors. Would you not agree? Same thing applies. He who controls the present controls the past. He who controls the past controls the future. That's the correct. We both got it wrong initially, but that's the correct way around.
Yes, right. But so how did these people ever get control to wage war against those?
Who are these people? The hidden hand?
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. There
Yeah,
isn't these people.
Yeah,
There is-
that appeals to some. It's.
Well,
I don't think it's a code I would stake my life on.
Well, is there two sides? No. In reality, there isn't two sides. There's the appearance that's given to the public of two sides all the time in wars and other things. There isn't. There's not two sides. There's one side. Or sorry, there can't be one side, but there's just one power, whoever they are, and they have been controlling things and manipulating basically the ignorant, which is us, for a long time. Why they do it? Why they do it? I don't know, but they have been doing it. World War II was the biggest contradiction ever.
Everyone, too many people. Hold on 1 second. Shout out to Theo Megawerty, who says, Nathan, that is on point with your conclusion about the pervasive heliocentric lie being forced into the light of the quantum mechanics era. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
But just doesn't that make you feel hopeless? Can't we just maybe assume that they're stupid or wrong, or they're just wrong?
What if they didn't even exist? How can we do that if they maybe didn't exist and we explore the other side of the coin?
What makes me want to do is control the present so we can control the future. Let's take over.
See, Neil, that's great, but you're not in control of the present, so you'll never control the past to control the future. Kind of a hopeless idea.
Why can't we gain control?
Because you don't control the present to control the past to control the future.
Well, we can control the present, and we're making a difference now by changing the paradigm.
Hold on. Neil has got a point, right? We are directly influencing it. We are part of the cog. We are a cog. How can I phrase this? We are a cog in the machine right now, aren't we? So when you say, no, you can't control the present, isn't that strictly what we're trying to do? Maybe it's futile. I'm not going to, argue the quantitative value of how much we're influencing it. But, qualitatively, we are. That's what we're doing. We're going to tangent off on that potentially now before I shout out Rinsler again for the super chat. Thank you for the support, Rinsler. I really appreciate it. Statistics. The prime enemy of the state is religion or God. People must believe entirely in the state at all costs. This is in line with your current conversation. Thank you for the super chat, Rinsler. I don't know why everyone keeps pointing out that their super chats are in line with the current conversation, but thank you for the super chat. One more. Shout out to Theo Megawerty. It says, Brian, thesis, antithesis, synthesis, A2-sided 1. Okay, I didn't fully understand that, but yeah. Thank you for the super chats. Go ahead, Neil.
Nathan, it started out as a small little section of the internet. It's not that any longer. So you can't tell me that we're not making a difference and we're trying to get control of the present narrative.
So influence is not the same as being in control. It's
So
influencing.
who?
That's not the one that's actually determining what is official.
Yeah, but we start out this
Yeah,
way.
yeah, but you're assuming we're going to get there. You don't know that.
I'm
It
not
doesn't seem
assuming.
likely. Just
No,
because
no,
we
guys,
are hitting
please,
true
please.
points doesn't
Arwen
mean
and
that we
Neil.
get the game
Hello?
to control.
Hello, Owen and Neil. Yeah, let's not argue about the quantitative difference that we may or may not be making. I thought I drew a line through that before you could argue about it. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was going to say what Neil's expressing is the idea that we have we can drive ourselves to do these things. But the statement that he's attaching it to says that you are driven. So he who controls the past wants you to do this in the future, if you're wanting to hold to that statement.
Maybe. It's not by
That's where you
accident
get
that
the
flat
control.
Earth is here, is it? Right? We all say this
Well,
has been given to us, right?
They can't delete it. They'd have to delete heliocentrism.
Yeah, but if we work off that quote, then it's all pointless, because if we didn't control the past, then how can we control the future? Unless we did control the past.
That's deep, Brian.
Indeed. But with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this extended live show, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you. Smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a member, and all that good stuff. It looks like there is actually another super chat that just came in from Theo Megawerty, so I'll just do a quick shout out to him before we fully round out this live show. So big shout out to Theo Megawerty. Nathan, purposefully misunderstanding my posts, so I'll buy more. Lol. Good business is good business. Lol. Superpositions is what I mean. Lol. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Really appreciate it. But once again, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
And superpositions, it was super propositions.
Yeah,
that's
said,
number one.
Yeah,
Number two, can somebody tell me.
His joke was that I'd intentionally got his super chats wrong, so I intentionally misread it. That was the joke. Oh,
yeah, so you
it's not
misread
low.
superposition.
It's not
being
low. Let's laugh
superposition.
out loud, Nathan. It's not
Yeah.
low.
Maybe if some more people all talk at the same time, it will be
Right.
more audible.
It seems like that guy always. Who is that?
Yeah, super propositions. Right. Yeah, gotcha.
What is up with that? He's been quiet the whole show, and I say something, and he's fucking all over it.
No, D Rose has had quite a bit of input in the show. You've just got it, yeah. What are you talking about?
Oh, I'm sorry for his input. I got another question. How does a helium balloon in a car that's accelerating going forward have anything whatsoever to do with the fucking Earth accelerating up? Somebody please tell me that.
First, you'll have to validate. Hold on.
The Earth is
no. Hello. First, QE, you've got to validate your claim that Earth's going up. So,
It's not my claim. It's what's being. Do you think I'm claiming this?
It sounded like it to me. That's what just happened.
Holy shit! Have you been keeping up on current events recently?
Sorry, did QE just ask me if I was keeping up with current events? Someone just asked me in Arthur B. Flatt's chat when the coronation was. I was like, I don't know. I know he'll be holding a globe with a cross on it when he becomes head of the Church of England. But when that's happening, I have no idea. I don't know. I assumed he already was king. I don't know. I'm not Mr. Current Events. No. What is...
Well, he's already king because he's elected as soon as the Queen dies by telephone conference, but he's crowned next week, I think.
Well, there you go. I didn't know. What's going on, QE? Why are you making such an outrageous claim about Earth moving upwards?
Who cares about any of this? What about what QE is saying?
What? Because he's become a member of the Flat Earth Society by the sounds of it.
Like it.
No, because
now Adam's gonna get on board.
Yeah, I like it when people get on board with my nonsense. Thank you, Adam. Validate my nonsense
This
perfectly.
balloon, is it made out of wood?
All right.
It is a
All right,
tree,
so-
therefore a duck, therefore made of wood, and therefore burn him.
Oh, for fuck's sake! So, what we were talking about last week. Remember, I brought it up that I was hearing little spiegels everywhere, and now it's sort of come out. I haven't got the whole story. I only have bits and pieces of it. So let me say it again. How can a balloon, a helium balloon, in a car that's accelerating, because the helium balloon moves forward, does that have anything whatsoever to fucking do with whether the Earth is accelerating up or not? Can somebody please?
He's done it
explain that?
again.
Firstly,
I got it.
firstly, no swearing. Right.
Hold on, I can do
Are
it.
you talking to me, John? Just because that's
let me just
what I've been
establish a few
talking about for
facts.
3 consecutive shows nonstop, pretty much, including
establish-
today's. Is that who you're addressing, or are you addressing Dell?
I'm not addressing you.
Hello,
I'm not
can you hear
addressing-
me?
Just checking.
Hello. Just need to establish a few facts before we move forward. Okay. Has Quantum Eraser disproven that this doesn't show Earth's moving up?
Hold on.
What?
Well, haven't you, QE?
Making a claim of the Earth moving up.
I'm not
do it.
claiming it. Holy shit.
Stop trolling.
Everybody
QE.
stop. Well, why did you claim it then?
Because
I'll
that's
claim
what I've heard. How many times do I have fucking?
You stop
Are
swearing.
you eating lead zinc chips?
Number one.
Hey,
stop,
John, I'll
stop
claim it
swearing,
for you.
please.
I'll claim it so you can destroy it. Is that all right?
I'm not destroying. Holy fucking shit! I've dropped off in Bizarro World or something.
You ain't kidding.
No blasphemy either.
Well, hold on. Hang on. What Kiwi is asking, please, hang on. What Kiwi is asking, what the hell has a helium balloon been moved forward in a car that's accelerating, right, got to do with the claim, somebody's claim that the Earth is moving up?
I don't know.
The
He
answer is
claimed
nothing.
it. He needs
I
to
know
prove it.
what.
It's not my
Nothing.
burden. QE bloody claimed it.
Yeah, but he didn't claim it. He didn't claim it. He's asking a question.
Holy!
I don't
No,
know,
are you
QE.
serious?
You show me your balloon, and if I feel it proves Earth's moving up, then I'll listen to what you've got to say about it.
Holy shit!
I'll,
I'm going to recuse myself.
Oh my God!
Hold on.
guys,
I used to
can you
believe
just
this.
stop rambling all over each other, please?
Well, why
Says
is it-
Arwin.
why
Oh,
is-
that's brilliant. Someone trim that out.
I used to believe this though. Like the idea is you got to reify an inertial vector, right? You got to do all this completely in reference frames. And then you have the inertial vector of the car and then the balloon going up, right? So then you reify the Earth into an inertial vector, and when you let go of a balloon, it goes up. But you got to turn your vector on its side in the car.
Gotcha. So the car is analogous to Earth. When it moves forward, it's analogous to Earth going up. Therefore, when we observe the effect of the balloon going back, it's analogous to a balloon going up with Earth
The
going
balloon
up.
doesn't go back; it goes forward. in the car.
No way.
Yeah, says,
Hold on.
says
Hold on, everybody stop. This is important scientific evidence. Did you say it goes forward?
Yeah, it's magic.
No fucking way. I even said no swearing, and now I am. I can't believe this. So Earth is moving up.
No, it's just affirming the
John.
no, it's just to affirming the consequent fallacy.
Look,
man.
QE's
You
very
can't-
rarely wrong, and he's not wrong now. Well, thank you for proving that,
Unbelieving
QE.
lie.
Well, now Elijah's right, but now John probably has a point to make about this. I don't know.
Let's all drop the
Let's see that
stupidness
next
now,
time.
because otherwise QE's point will get rumpused. And now that the stupidity and silliness is over, which it is, I'm drawing a line through it. We appreciate you're not making this claim. It has nothing to do with Earth moving up. It isn't moving up. It's not evidence for it moving up. QE.
Yeah. And
I
even
knew
if it
Arwin
were,
would
we
talk.
wouldn't be able to
Why
test
is
it.
Arwin rumpusing everybody?
Shut up, Nathan. It's not fucking funny anymore, man.
Oh, chill out.
Just trying to create order here. I've been
are you
talking
now?
about this specific subject for 3 days straight, and nobody even addresses that.
Would you?
You address.
noisy.
That's the point.
Albert.
That's the point of leading a conversation. You address it. Why are you looking for anyone else to affirm what you know?
I addressed it the other day, Owen. I told you what the problem was. Now, I doubt you said anything about it on your show for 3 days.
Have
Did you
watched
mention
it?
what I said on your show?
Have you watched it, Brian?
Did you?
Oh,
I'm
you
asking him
didn't
a
have to go
question.
there.
Did
Don't go there, Brian.
Arwen.
Don't you
Just
go.
Arwen, did you address what I said on the show the other day, on your show, for 3 days?
Bit vague,
Can we
Brian.
have some context?
Yeah, can we have
from
some
Arwen
context? What are you
first?
talking about, Brian?
Ask again. He
The
just rejoined.
claim from
Yeah, my browser just
Arwen. Arwen, did you address what I stated concerning this issue the other day on your show in the past 3 days?
Context. What was that?
Yeah. Arwen, you tell us what's going off, and then Brian, you raise your point, because at the moment, I don't think some people in the room might have a clue, but any listener won't have a clue. So John's made a claim that the Earth's going up. What's that got to do with a balloon in a car, Arwen? Can you pick it up from there?
Sure. So, if nobody interrupt me, or I'm dropped. Okay, just to be clear, nobody's going to interrupt me until I'm finished. I'm going to keep it as short
I'm
as
here.
I
I'm
can.
keeping control. Go ahead, Arwen.
Right. So yeah, if you would mathematically assume the Earth to be going upward, that would explain why the density, relative density, works the way it does in the stationary setting of the realm, assumed, which is provably stationary to us, right? And if you'd assume that, then mathematically it starts working out when you apply forces to mediums within our realm, right? You accelerate the axis by which the densities order themselves within that separated medium that is moving. It will start to shift in accordance, just as if the Earth were accelerating up. So it works out mathematically. This is also the reason why Einstein came to his conclusion about the Earth accelerating up, because mathematically it works out really perfectly. But it isn't actual, because you can't prove it. And even if it were real, you will never be able to prove it. How are you going to prove it? By detaching yourself from the reference frame of accelerating Earth. That means you have to go out of it, and you'll not be here ever again to tell us. So it's technically impossible to prove, even if it were true.
Put a balloon in a car, accelerate forwards, and then John explained that if you imagine that description of a vector with you in a reference frame moving horizontally was actually the reference frame of Earth by comparison with a balloon going up, right? That's how you'd explain it. There you go. That's how you show it.
You combine the acceleratory forces, one being the actual one of the medium accelerating, and the other one, the virtual one of the entire medium of the realm accelerating up. Which you can't prove.
I'm sorry, I'm still fucking lost. I'm sorry.
Okay, can everyone stop? Go ahead. QE, go ahead.
That didn't explain shit. That was a bunch of fucking word soup. Somebody fucking explain it to me, please. Like,
okay,
Can I
I'll go.
Can I explain it? As I
Please,
just, 1 second, Eli.
Okay, right,
I
let's
did
go.
the other
Brian,
day.
go ahead.
Yes. What this starts out with is an object in a container of water, right? Whether it be an apple or whatever, something that will rise through the water, being dropped from a height, whether it be from a ceiling to a floor or whatever, and the apple not appearing to rise up through the water, right? So people are thinking that relative density doesn't work when the object is in when something is falling through the air. So they think that means that the Earth is moving up. No, the bottle of water is falling through the medium of air much faster than the apple or whatever is in the water can rise through the water, because the water is a more dense medium. So what's happening is there's two different rates of motion being confused, and people are thinking that relative density is not happening because the apple is not rising up through the water between the time the bottle leaves the ceiling and ends up at the floor. But the difference in fall rates and the difference in rates of fall and rise, so the difference in the rate of the bottle falling to the floor and the rate of the apple rising through the water is so massively different in rate that people are confusing it and thinking that the Earth is rising up. That's what's happening. It's a complete confusion from word go.
Nothing to do with it, but
I'm
sure.
still not
That's exactly it explained, Arwen. And for 3 days,
Can I get in the
speaking
queue?
of that on your show. That's why I didn't listen to your show, because I knew you'd be talking complete utter crap on your show.
No,
Can I
you're
get a-
talking
can I-
crap.
can I
You're
get-
talking about one little instance when you can actually go into the vomit comet and then see the density axis being neutralized by the parabolic flight.
No, I'm not. I'm
No,
talking
that's
about
not
something
what's
else.
happening at
You
all,
can, and
is
it
it?
has been demonstrated
No.
officially on that plane.
No, Arwin,
Yes.
that's false. That's a false
No.
No, it
statement.
isn't false. It's
It
what
is-
happens.
Let-
The axis
no,
is neutralized.
No,
I
Things
want to get
become
into
and
completely
let me
free
tell you why.
floating.
Let me tell you why. Repeat the statement of what you claimed happens in the vomit comet. The axis of
The parabolic.
dense.
Yeah.
Yeah, nonsense. All you've
axis.
done is throw something out the window, mate. Stop
What are you
trying to
talking about?
interpret something that's not happening. You've thrown both things out the window. That's all that's happening at that point. Yeah, both things are free falling.
Yeah.
The apple's not in the water anymore. They're both falling.
Wait, are we talking about in the
There is-
plane,
there
or are
is-
we talking
there
about
is-
outside
there
of
is-
the plane?
There is no density gradient to be applied. They're both falling. The
You're
apple's not
talking
in
about
the
the
water.
outside medium, right?
No, they're both
If you
falling.
have hold on. If you have an object that is hollow and things can freely move within it,
Yeah.
then that
They
becomes its
can't
own
freely move within
medium.
it, can they?
It's this object and a medium at the same time.
They're not freely
Right? It's
moving
in a
within it.
medium, and in there another medium.
No, incorrect.
Yes,
The
it's
second you
hollow.
start
There's stuff
falling,
free
that becomes
floating in there.
the second it starts falling, that becomes incorrect. That's no longer the case. It's not happening anymore, is
It
it? The apple
depends.
is not in the water. It's not supported by the water. They're both falling.
Yeah,
The
and what
reason-
if you pull it harder down? You put a rocket so it goes double the speed. Yeah, the density axis is gonna reform again. Yeah, because when you apply a force to something, the effective density axis, it alters in accordance to the force applied.
I'm on about something falling. There is no density axis there then. They're both falling. That's what I'm saying.
If they're falling, they're just like accelerating, but also at the same time being stopped by the air friction. So it's not gonna go full neutralization. You have to like give a little force with the vomit comet plane to go a little faster down to counteract the friction from the gas. It's falling.
Let's stay away from the vomit comet, please. Let's get hyper specific. I still don't have a fucking clue what you guys are talking about. So let's do it real easy. I want you to be so hyper specific it makes me puke. So we're on top of a building. We have a container. What's the fucking container? Where are we at? Empire State Building?
It's a clear.
Well,
it's a
hold
clear
on. I'm not
container.
done yet. I'm not done yet. So it's a fucking container. How much fluid you got in it, whether it be water or whatever it else is? What's the object? And are you dropping the enclosed object through the fucking air? I want it so fucking specific that it makes me puke. Go.
Okay. It's a container, a clear container filled with water. And inside that container, there is something that will rise through the water, something less dense than the water, whether it be an apple or whatever, right?
Okay.
That container is being dropped from a height. And when it's shown in slow motion, right? By the time the container reaches, between the time the container is let go to fall and by the time it reaches the ground, the object inside the water has not gone up through the water. So people think that's debunking relative density. Whereas they're not understanding is that the fall rate of the bottle of water through air is much faster than the rise rate of the apple or whatever through the water. So the bottle of water is hitting the ground before the apple gets a chance to rise through the water.
Thank you.
They're confusing it. They're confusing rates.
Thank you very much for explaining it so everyone in the audience knows what the fuck we're talking about. Thank
Right,
you.
so what's that got to do then with a balloon in a car? Because that was the original
I'm sorry.
question. What's the link?
Wait,
I don't
are
know.
y'all saying that people are trying to debunk relative density on an object that's already being affected by relative density? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah,
What the hell?
but it's always what it's going to be, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the
That whole
main
idea
problem
doesn't work
is-
because of whatever is happening inside of that. It's just ridiculous.
And the main problem is actually this was supposed to be a proof that we're moving. So here's the thing: proofs are self-evident at some point. And so every time someone tries to come up with a scenario or some kind of contraption that they claim is analogous to the proof that they should be giving, guess what? The proof is in the details. There was no proof.
Okay, so let's put it all together. Can we put it all together so the audience knows what the hell we're talking about?
Please.
So I'm asking here. So Brian explained it pretty well. I think every one of us got it. Now, conclusion.
I was away. Sorry, I was away from. I was away
Hold
from
on
my
a second.
device.
I'm not done yet. Conclusion. Then the Earth is accelerating up because of the apple and the water being dropped from the building. Is that correct?
Yeah, we had this conversation the other day. That was the point. The demonstration that demonstrates nothing. Brian explains very succinctly what's most likely going off. I say I'm still happy with it just being thrown out of a window because I don't know what it offers. I don't know what it's supposed to demonstrate. I don't know what it's showing me other than if I throw stuff out the window, it all falls down.
That's my point.
Well, just to add some clarity to QE here, just so you know, they're not dropping it from a very high building. They're just dropping it from from a second story window or from their ceiling in their house to their floor.
Yeah,
so they're not even because
we get that, Brian. You've explained the point of it. What does that show? Even if your explanation is incorrect and how does it show what they're claiming is the point?
How does it show? How does it show? Good point, Adam. That's exactly my point. Then I want to know the justification for the therefore, underlined bold. Therefore, the Earth is accelerating up.
It's a false dichotomy. It's a false dichotomy. So you have to accept that it's either relative density or their dumbass, whatever reason, right? So if they can show a situation where it appears like relative density isn't happening, then their dumbass description is true.
All I hear is we're going to prove that we are moving by showing that something is either is or not happening and something else that we know is moving. What?
That's the standard, Chocolate, because Dell's pushing that. And we're on Flat Swords the other night, and Rachie was in chat defending this, coming up with all different
Defending
scenarios.
what? That the Earth is moving because something is not happening and
It
something
has
that's
to be.
being dropped? What
It
the
has
fuck?
to be. Yeah, it has to be moving.
Nah, I don't want to believe that.
Yeah,
But
reification.
Dell thinks the Earth is moving. That's what you're saying.
It's just a
Upwards
stupid
acceleration of Earth,
reification.
yes.
Hold on,
dumb.
Darwin, have I
I'll
got
let
the
y'all
link?
have this.
I think I might have the link between this and the balloon.
Excuse me. I have a question. If the Earth
Well,
is going up, then how come?
Zero.
If the Earth is
No, that
going
wasn't
up,
carry on.
Zeros, hold on.
Let me finish.
I have the
Let me
link.
finish. Okay.
No, let
Sorry.
me finish as I'd started talking first. Come on, there's manners. There's a way of behaving here. If the roles were reversed, you would have gone first, wouldn't you?
Go, Adam.
So, we started this with the balloon in a car. What's it got to do with that? Now, we know when we've got the balloon in the car, the reason the balloon moves forward is because air isn't being affected by the car. The air molecules are behaving as they were, and they're collated, creating it moving forward. So if we're going to draw this as analogous, then within this situation, we should all be feeling, we should all look like Marilyn Monroe over that heater. Air should be blowing up because that would be the net effect if we're going to equivocate it to the car and the balloon. The air would move forwards in the car, and it would, because the Earth's coming up, it would push the air up. So all wind would be upwards. Go on.
Only the dense air goes to the push side, and the less dense air, whatever, or other types of gas, is going to go forward. That's how it's divided. That's why the helium balloon goes forward.
Because the air's doing what it does.
There is no density
car's
under
moving,
that
so
paradigm.
it scoops it, doesn't it? When therefore the pressure equalizes, and the only way it can equalize is to go back forwards into the car, which is what carries the balloon. That's what I'm saying. If you take that analogy to what they're claiming of a upward accelerating Earth, then that net effect should be wind blowing upwards, because the force, the collating is happening at the ground, isn't it? Because the ground's moving up.
No, it's in the
Sorry,
closest.
can I
And
say
it goes,
something?
yeah,
Can I say something
now?
One of the things I said as a debunk, one of the things I put forward as a debunk of this was airplanes holding an altitude. Our airplanes taking off. None of that can happen under that paradigm. Two objects can't fall at different rates under that paradigm. A helium balloon must go up. It can't even go up underneath that paradigm. But if it was going up, it would have to go up at the same rate as a stone falls, and it doesn't, because everything is taken away. There is no weight. There is no relative density. There is only an upward moving Earth, right? But that can't. Those specific, and what Adam said, examples prove that it can't. It's not happening.
Well, the question was, John's
Right.
question
Can
was, what has a balloon in a car got to do with the Earth accelerating upwards?
Yes. Yes,
I
but
think I've answered that.
I heard that from a crayon muncher,
Can I
so
speak?
I may have muddied the water. Hold on a second. I may have muddied the waters a little bit with that example. That's why I went back to the apple with the water. How about that?
I just wanted to say that motion going upward. Can the people that are advocating that can they account for why the clouds appear to look flat at the bottom and puffy on the top? That scenario still give that same appearance to the clouds if the Earth was shooting upward and pushing all the gases. I'm just trying to. I'm being sarcastic, yes, because we don't see that.
Isn't this-
The activity of the clouds don't exemplify that scenario. I'm
Isn't
looking at
all of
clouds
these-
right now, and they're just chilling calmly with a flat bottom and puffy on the top.
But isn't all of these what we're talking about is how we're going to get a gas pressure gradient? Like that's after you have gas pressure. Who cares? Really? I mean, in the grand scheme of things.
I don't think that's what they're going for here with gas pressure gradients. Let's stick to the topic. Can anyone show out on that camp? I don't even know who's in the camp, by the way. I've just been hearing little spiegels out there. How does anything that I don't even know what they've shown? So maybe I'm ignorant on the topic. I'm not straw manning the argument, but this is what I heard up to this point.
Well, yeah, aren't they trying to describe an Earth like creating the gas pressure gradients from an inertial vector within space?
Who?
The people asserting this as
No,
proof that
no, I didn't hear anything about gas pressure or gas
No,
pressure.
what they're trying to do is justify why we are standing on Earth and not floating away. It's another gravity nonsense. There has to be an answer for gravity. So now this is what it is, because things go down.
That's not what they're trying to do. None of that is what they're trying to do. I've already explained their confusion. The confusion is with a bottle of water with an apple or whatever in it, falling 8 foot, 12 foot, and then them videoing it and looking at it through slow motion and seeing the apple not rise through the water, but from the time that the bottle of water falls to where it hits the floor, and thinking there must be something else going on besides relative density because the apple didn't rise.
Right.
The apple didn't rise because it didn't have a chance. It didn't have a chance to rise because the rise rate of the apple through the water is much, much slower than the fall rate of the bottle of water through the air.
I understand that.
That's
Brian,
what's
but
going
if they're
on.
trying to debunk relative density, then what are they trying to say is in place
I don't
of
know what
relative
they're
density?
trying to say. I don't know. I'm only telling you what I've been told directly. I've had conversations with Rachel, and I'm only going by what she has said to me directly.
Yeah, and it's honestly
her
not.
videos.
So is Rachel championing this idea?
No, it's Dell. Dell is championing it. Rachel is. I don't know if she's all on it, but she's on the fence at least. Whether she's on the side of this or not.
Can somebody get her in here and have her present her case so we're not
come.
flailing?
She won't come. I've invited her many times. She will not come.
It's not that
All
she
right.
won't come. It's that this time of day she can't come. She's looking after her children. She can't do it this time of day. That's what she told me before. She told Anthony the same. So it's not that she won't come in here. She's not in a position to come in here. The best
Okay,
she can do
Brian.
is
So
live
why
that.
didn't she? So why didn't she come in flat suits the other day? It was a whole different
Why?
time of day.
Yeah, it's different time
Well,
of day.
other than to demonstrate something to the audience, which I suspect is only John's reason for caring. It's like sometimes we personally care, and it's like that's why we're in this mess in the first place. When you found out that water wasn't curving around a ball, that was pretty much it until you start engaging people that started telling you things and you wanted to know why. And here we have all these anti-flat earthers coming up with shit because we're allowing them to, escape from reality. Who cares? Who, if she wants to come in here and learn something, she can. If she wants to go look something up to go figure that out, she can. If she won't, who cares?
Well, she comes in the chats with it everywhere we are. She comes in a chat with this nonsense.
Who cares?
What if this doesn't have anything to do with the claim of gravity creating a gradient? Then what's the point? Why are they fighting this? I don't get it.
That's what I'm saying.
No, this is
every time we ask what is their point, we already know they don't have one from the beginning of the conversation.
they're the opposite of gravity, aren't they? So where you're saying there, John, it creating a density gradient. They're not saying that. They're not trying to have a downward force. They're the exact opposite. That the force is created by upward acceleration of the deck. That's what's the force generation that they think was required to displace differential densities.
And why would
how
they?
that relates to atmosphere, I think, would probably create a problem for them because I don't think upward movement can have this magic effect of containment of gas like it does in the heliocentric model. Like I said, it's just creating that effect of the balloon in the car, isn't it? That's the only thing it would be doing to gas molecules, even though it might have the proposed effect of liquids.
Yeah, because even
it would have to be contained.
Right, because even if anything was moving, yes, it would still have to be contained. So don't even ask what the point of this all is. If you ask me, you got to wait to let people explain themselves, and when they start asking you to help them explain, no, fam, I don't know squat about what you're talking about. You explain it, because I don't get it.
Well, when they come in, they say relative density. No, this don't work. This is what actually is happening. You have to address it.
Why?
Because it causes for a good fight.
Yeah, but if the reason they say address it is because look what happens when I throw something out the window. It's not really anything to deal with.
Yeah, but let me just throw something out here. This is why it's important.
Something, but it doesn't prove density wrong.
This is why it's important that we don't ignore it. Just like we shouldn't. Just like a couple of us said concerning dielectric acceleration, it's going to cause a bigger problem down the line. What's going to happen is that there's going to be more confusion concerning this issue, and down the line, it's going to cause a bigger problem. So we have to address it. It's within our.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing. We were born understanding this. So and I wish I would have got here for the philosophy talk before John came in, because I think that we think inverted. I'm going to save that for after the show. But the bottom line is no. We're not about to have and I did 4-year-long debate about natural laws and things that we've known since we could remember things. Like, the truth doesn't need any help. What we need is to stop engaging people who don't want the truth. Who can argue with that? It's just about perspective. How do you see it? Well, I see people coming in. They don't want to accept truth. things that why do I have to explain to somebody something that they've known since birth? Well, they're afflicted. Only way I can help that is if they allow me. If they don't want to allow me, I'm just wasting time. The audience is here. They're here for exactly why they're here. They're learning. There's no problem. They understand a lot. You guys are smart. Audience, first of all, thank you very much for rocking out with us. So, I mean, we don't need to fight people that don't really have anything in their bag.
It's not a fight.
There you
And
go.
these are not anti-flat earthers, by the way. It's not
Yeah,
a fight. I
We're
just want to
talking
hear
about
the
Dell and
argument.
Raichi.
Is it just Dell and Raichi?
Yeah, mostly.
If I take a bucket of water and throw it up in the air, does the water come back down in the shape of the bucket? So just because I've put the bottle around it, is it really holding the shape of the bottle, the water?
Does this come down to them trying to figure out the cause of entropy? Is that what this is coming down to?
Well, they're trying to find some way to bypass relative density. That's it. That they're
Appears to
just
be trying to invoke a
shit
force,
testing it,
are we?
I think.
Do you get me? They're trying to invoke a force, as far as I can see.
I see it as them trying to shit test relative density but yeah, they're not doing a very good job. I mean, Raichi's been really trying. Even in my chat today, it was like kept on going, and then just suddenly inserting like really weird straw man assumptions that are like that doesn't seem natural to conclude that. It just was really weirding me out.
Do you think that it's not that they're trying to disprove relative density? It's more so because I mean, there are a lot of people who are trying to attribute causes to things without any actual scientific evidence. So do you think that what they're trying to do is attribute a cause, i.e., a force of some kind, to relative density?
I think
No,
they're trying to do
no,
what the
that's what they're
Ethereum
not trying to do. That's what I've sort of been trying to do. And I knew it would get a lot of friction because of it. And that's why I did it mostly on my shows, the last 3 shows. So, but no, they haven't really given an alternative. Like they're just saying, no, it doesn't work. They didn't like, well, what if it is this? No. I haven't heard anything like that from
You got to
Rachel.
get hyper specific.
Well, he just
Be
admitted it.
vague. That made no sense. I don't know
But no,
what the fuck you're talking about.
It did. He just admitted. He said they're saying, well, no, it's not this. Maybe it's something
it's
else.
not what?
What we're talking about relative density is all it is. That's
Oh,
what
no, it's
it
not
is.
relative density. Then fucking say that so the audience isn't out there fucking flapping.
Yeah, so we're talking about relative density and what Arwen he said, no, it's not what I said, but he said they're trying to figure out something else about relative density. Well, it's just relative density. That's what it is. Period. Like trying to figure out what else it is, what it actually is. No, relative density is just relative density.
I think what they're trying to do is, like I said, similar to the Ethereum viewpoint. So within, I said they're trying to assign a force, and it's the same. Ethereum's tried to assign a force. It's a slightly different force, a very minute force. Purpose being is to create a direction of orientation for relative density to play out. These guys seem to be doing the same. They're invoking an upward force into everything to generate the reason for a direction of orientation.
Exactly.
That appears to be, and like I said, like the Ethereans, the only way to do it is to invoke a force, be that an electric force between the ground and the sky is one Etherean explanation, or in this case, invoke an acceleration upwards of the ground.
So that's what I said. They're looking for another reason or a reason for relative density. That's the problem.
Right.
But
And by the way,
can
can I clarify something? It's not just the ground, it's the entire medium, not the ground in an open space. That's not how it works. It's a closed medium in
It
that
is an open.
proposition. And that entire medium, completely isolated, is supposedly accelerating up. That's the philosophy behind it.
Are we then?
Yeah.
In that case, then, does gas go up, go boom, boom in their model?
No, it still goes in all directions.
That creates
it's able to move
You're all
freely.
adding legs.
So that creates upward air currents, doesn't it? If gas doesn't have a naturally upward bias like Einsteinians and Newtonians would want, or it's not got that, then it's only going to be, and it's having its own natural gas behavior in their model, not go down, go boom, boom, to account for it, then it is left with, there's a really good question, John. What has a balloon in a car got to do with this? Because it does seem to have a consequence. It will have a consequence if gas behavior isn't going up, go boom, boom.
But you're all adding legs to it. It's totally simple. They're observing an effect that they're creating, and they don't know how to explain that effect with relative density. And so they're pre-assuming that it's caused by something else, when it's only caused by a changing of rates. That's all it is. So they're just confused about an effect that they're creating. They're not seeing this in nature. They're creating this effect. We don't have plastic bottles with things in them in nature.
Well,
good
from a
search.
hypothesis standpoint, you're absolutely correct. Yes, that is exactly how that formed, how that misunderstanding formed.
Isn't that what we
It's not
discussed
the
on?
full scope of the discussion, though. But yes, you're correct about that part.
Isn't that what we discussed on the live show where we were talking about man-made effects versus natural phenomena?
Coconut.
Say again.
Coconut. That
Coconut.
Yeah.
Can't see inside a coconut. Is it a transparent
I can
coconut?
still wonder what's happening. Why, when I open it up, it's all shaken up, and it's not just in its
All
relative
shaken
density
up. That's an assumption. You don't know whether it was shaken up beforehand.
Exactly. That's why what I've got to do is make a see-through coconut to experiment.
No. You just associate it to the quantum level and say that it is in existence in both states.
Yeah.
So it's a sort of Schrodinger's cat of a
Schrodinger's
coconut.
coconut.
Yeah. Schrodinger's coconut. You've got it.
Hey, you know what? And real quick, what Nathan said kind of stuck in my head. Repeating or mimicking or remanifesting nature's phenomena. If it's a natural phenomena, whether it be the Earth rotating or whether it be the Earth going up or whatever it is that the heliocentric side claims, that has to be repeated naturally, not with any artificial intelligence or synthetic or computerized assistance. Just repeat it naturally, whether you wait for the cycle to happen again or whatever it is. If that
Yeah,
can't
you're off
be,
there. Hold on
then
a
it
sec.
can't-
Hold on, D-Rose. The repeatability, and we did cover this on the live show, is in respect to the actualization of hypothesis, because to repeat an observation of something happening in nature, you've only got to blink, and then it happens again. So, no, that's not with the repeatability aspects. But what I get what you're saying. You're saying not from a conjured phenomena, but from something that you stumble across in nature, so to speak. Yeah? In other words, it's not a phenomena unless it's an observed phenomena. And if you're conjuring the phenomena, then it's not an observed phenomena. You've just conjured it.
Exactly. And I think that's why science doesn't work well with the heliocentric argument.
Well, of course, it's a category error. Back to Schrodinger's coconut. To make it a true analogy, wouldn't you need some object besides the liquid in the middle, with the liquid inside the coconut?
The pulp.
No. I will I will assume that we are a contained system moving upwards.
The pulp. How do you know there's pulp floating around in the juice?
Just when I open it up. Yeah.
This is ideal.
Yeah, but when you
this
open it up,
this is
you get a
ideal.
picture of
Now
juice.
let's spend a prolonged period arguing specifically
What
about the
does
coconut.
Roman Catholicism?
Hello, Neil. Let's spend a prolonged period now arguing about the coconut. Very useful.
What does Roman
Yes, it is.
Catholicism have to do with this?
What does what?
What does Roman Catholicism have to do with this?
Oh, complete red herring fallacy. I didn't say the Pope. We said the pulp. Don't try to be 10th man when you're not.
I gotta fill in his shoes. He's not here.
Okay, maybe I made a big deal out of this one. It shouldn't have been a big deal. Maybe I just frequented a couple places that brought up the subject. It was one after the other, and I found it strange.
We never got round to it.
It's been
But
on Arwen's show a load.
was
It's
that
been
what was? Sorry,
kicking
Adam.
round Arwen's show loads on it in the chat, and it is prevalent at the moment. So I think it's been nicely addressed there between Brian and Arwen.
Can I ask a question, though?
I think it's too late.
Well, was it something in reference to what we discussed in the pre-show also? Because we never actually discussed it. I played it and then the live show went live.
No, that was Whitson. Brian has that. What was that about, Brian?
That was just no busters. I listened to the first half an hour of their show from yesterday, and it's just a quote something Whitsitt said that he said Newton said that I'd never heard Newton say. Something to do with Newton claiming ether. I didn't hear that.
I've sent you a link.
And you sent that to me, did you?
Yeah, I've sent it to you. It's
yeah.
It's on that. It's from. There's a little bit. There's a little bit in Principia, but mostly in optics.
Principia.
See.
Yeah, but it's just that I wanted to find out. I didn't know whether he did or didn't say it. I just want to find out if he did say that because I hadn't heard it before.
Well, what did he say? What did Newton say?
Oh, according to Whitsitt, he said that.
Not according to Whitsitt. According to Newton, what did Newton say?
I don't know. I don't know. I haven't. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what Newton said. That's my point. Is I heard Whitsitt state something that he said Newton said, and I had never heard it before.
Why don't you play it, Nathan? It's only a few seconds.
1940 of the video.
Haven't we debunked these morons? Why are we interested in what they? But I guess
because Jaron
go
comes
ahead.
in a bit later and starts talking about scientific method.
Yeah, but didn't we debunk these numpty dipshits some months back?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not trying to do anything. I just posted the video in Master D earlier for people to watch.
Hold on. Sorry, Brian.
I didn't do anything.
Hold on. Didn't you bring it up, QE? Just now.
Bring what up?
Put it in again as time stamped.
Hold on a second. Bring what? What did I bring up? I didn't bring up any friggin' Newtonian shit. No.
Oh, my bad. Sorry, I'm getting confused between the two different things. It's because they're not associated directly. That was my confusion.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah.
My bad.
Excuse me, I got a question for QE. QE, what did you say at the end of my statement about a category? When I had said that's why science doesn't work well with the heliocentric argument?
Yes, it's category error because there is no science, like I've said for like 7 years now, probably close to 1 million times. Maybe that's hyperbole, but it's close. That whether the Earth is a sphere or whether the Earth is flat has nothing to do with science whatsoever.
Exactly. That's the point I was making. Because that's what I was saying. I didn't articulate it right, but that's what I was saying. But they try to claim science proves. That's all over their mainstream and even their little minion statements. Science proves that the Earth is a sphere. That's the point I was making. So I didn't know whether
we heard that many years ago. Yes, we've debunked that for the past 7 years. It's in their face, and we stomped a mud hole in their ass, and we're still doing it.
It's the whole body of science.
Hold on. Do you understand why it's a category error, though, D-Rose?
I'm sorry, say it again.
Do you understand why it's a category error to associate Earth being a sphere or the sphere-Earth model with science full stop? Do you understand why it's a category error?
I don't know what the term category error means, but
that's
I do
fine.
know that I know that science has something to do with it. Yeah, okay.
But yeah, but that would be to say the reason science has nothing to do with it. In other words, it's in a different category. Would be to say that it's what is questions versus cause and effect reasoning. So whether or not something has a certain shape is a what is question, whereas science and the scientific method is exclusively dealing with cause and effect. Yeah, the hows and the whys. So that's a category error in respect to if you ask why something is triangular, that's not something happening. So in order to perform the scientific method, something's got to be happening first. Whereas if you say, even if it's by begging the question, Earth is a sphere, that's the designation of us as a shape. It's not something happening. So you can't put it through the scientific method. What's the cause of triangle? It's a nonsensical statement because they're different categories. Do you understand now?
I got you, but I don't think I started with the shape. I was talking about motion. Is it motion going up or spinning considered a natural phenomenon
No, you
that has
started
to
with
be
the
observed?
heliocentric.
Anything.
No, he started with the heliocentric model.
Well, I didn't mean to say. I said at the ending. I said that's why science doesn't work well with the heliocentric argument.
Sorry.
One of the arguments is that we're spinning, or the
I didn't do anything.
So
You're wording it wrong. That's what it is.
sorry.
D-Rose.
Okay,
was
I'm
just
sorry.
Falls outside of
So
science.
I'll rephrase it. Isn't the Earth spinning considered a natural phenomenon that they claim?
No, we're going somewhere. This is useful. Yes, no. So I said this on the live show too. Hello? Hold on, Eli. No, it's not a phenomena unless you observe it. So if we observed Earth to be spinning, or we observed an effect that later turned out to have the causal relationship of Earth spinning, that would be difficult to put through the method because the presumed cause in that instance is Earth spinning. So how'd you vary that? But in terms of the logic, with an effect being induced from Earth spinning, yes, potentially you could put it through the method, but you have to adhere to the method steps. First step being observe a natural phenomena. So for that to go through the method, you'd have to first say, what phenomena were you discussing? Now, if it's the case that the stars drifting was the presumed effect that we're going to be studying, then we're not going to be establishing whether or not Earth spins. We're establishing the cause of the effect we observe in relation to the stars moving. So dV, dependent variable effect we're studying, is star moving or stars movement, as opposed to Earth moving, which is an assumption you impose on a logical framework that you might then beg the question of Earth spinning by an inference that because the stars are moving, we're moving. But that's not science either. So depends on what the situation is. The reason everyone started mumbling when you slightly altered what you said was because your supposition that science doesn't jive with the heliocentric model was just badly phrased, because it's a category error. You can't put a concrete noun such as Earth being flat or Earth being a sphere through the method that establishes the cause of step one, an effect. Earth being flat, not an effect. Earth being a sphere, not being effect. A triangle, not an effect. Concrete nouns. So you can't put them through the method. Hence, not in the right category. As soon as you changed it to, well, no, I mean, it doesn't jive with the way people claim that the Earth's a sphere. For example, Earth spinning, everyone groaned. It's like, no, you're moving the goalposts, and it convolutes the example when QE said it's a category error. But I'm glad we've done this. I'm not criticising you. I'm glad we've gone through this.
I was inadvertently, not even knowing, I was kind of being like Baldwin. But I didn't know that I was being Baldwin because I was asking the honest question, but I was phrasing it the wrong way and calling myself correcting it. And I even did what you said. I moved the goalpost trying to do the same thing that a lot of anti-flat earthers do. So I'm glad you went through that.
Yeah, but
and I learned something too.
It's arrogant in a way, or big-headed in a way, to say we hinted it, but we know what we're doing. When I say, well, we are inviting that by way of the question in housekeeping. Any scientific evidence, right? We're inviting it for something that has a concrete noun as the premise. So there's a nonsensical housekeeping question, but it's intentionally phrased that way. You know, these all of them, without exception, have been pored over and carefully phrased, and in some instances rephrased to make the point. And in the case of the scientific evidence question, you're asking specifically for a particular field to give you a hypothesis, or with gravity, scientific evidence of an effect we don't observe. So there's a phrasing that's been adhered to in terms of the logic of the question. But if we were to say, ask the question, is there any scientific evidence of the globe? Then that would be a malformed question. Now, I say that because there's an example of people doing that, or one particular individual, Quantum Eraser, but he's doing it for the same reasons that we'd lead people in the housekeeping questions. When he says, give us your spinning ball earth scientific evidence, he knows that he's introducing an aspect that makes the sense to the question, even though in literal terms, there can't be scientific evidence for a globe earth. It's a category error to assert that there is.
Well, hold on a sec.
Just like you're
Because
setting them up.
once you assert gravity, you're asserting a causal mechanism, aren't you?
Without an effect to be observed in the first instance, depending on 4D space-time bending or mass attracting mass, but yes.
So it's not necessarily a nonsense question. It's just the claim is nonsense.
Well, there's only because there's no phenomena.
No, the question's malformed. See, I set them up like Neil said. So we've been told from the beginning, if you can remember, to believe in the flat earth. We don't believe, I digress. To believe in a flat earth, that you must deny all of science and all of physics. So that was the leading poster child for at least 2 years when I first come out here, right? So then I flipped it on its head, and I forced the globetards. I say, give me science, give me, then therefore, if that's what you say, then there must be scientific evidence for a globe. So give me evidence, scientific evidence for your globetard. Now, the next statement out of their mouth is key, because if they don't object, if somebody doesn't object immediately that it's a nonsensical question, because it is non sequitur, and they go, they better object immediately, is what I'm trying to say, and say that's a malformed question in this genre because it's non sequitur. The moment they don't, and they say, well, I don't have, even if you say, well, I don't know, you're guilty. You follow?
Yeah, it demonstrates
You know,
immediately, depending on the answer, unless you are called foul upon a malformed question in regards to a concrete noun evidenced by a cause and effect method, then they don't know that is the case unless they object. So there's a very narrow objection that they must give to demonstrate that they understand how the scientific method works. If they give any other answer other than that is a malformed question because I can't give you cause and effect reasoning for a concrete noun, you fool, and call foul on QE, at which point obviously he's going to laugh and disclaim that it's his shit test. But that's the only answer you can give to demonstrate that you do know what the scientific method is. It's a very carefully phrased question by QE. When I say know, he knows what he's doing when he phrases malformed questions like that. It's not quite paralleled with the housekeeping. They're even more carefully phrased, but it's basically a shit test by QE, right?
Yes.
Well, no, I can see that.
I remember. Just very
I can see that about the talk.
John, then Brian. Hold on, Brian.
All right.
John, then Brian.
Well, I can see that about the globe part, but gravity, the asking for scientific evidence for that when they claim there is scientific evidence, I don't know if that's malformed.
It isn't.
That
It
is
was a
not
bad example
it
by
isn't.
me. Let's just clear that up. No, that was a bad example by me because it isn't malformed in the housekeeping question. It was a bad example. Bad parallel, by the way. Yeah, go on. Was there something else, John, or if not, Brian?
No, that's all I was just trying to clear up. I'm sorry.
It was my bad. It wasn't a malformed
change his-
housekeeping
hold on,
question.
hold on.
Go on, Brian.
No, he needs to change his name, because every time people say John, I think they're talking to me. So
Okay.
you either call me QE or not. So just to get that out of the way before Brian goes, it's starting to get aggravating.
That's my bad also. I'll call him refracted curvature. It's my bad. I call both of you
It's
John
not
because
your
you're
bad.
both
It's
called
not your
John.
bad. Everyone does it.
It's not our fault. It's both of your mother's faults. Anyway,
No.
go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, all I was going to say is I remember when I first heard QE when you were interviewing him one Thursday night, about 9, 10 o'clock at night, back in 2016, and QE said, I remember specifically because I started using this straight after that night, or from that night on, I used it. When they're trying to claim that the globe has some kind of scientific validity and evidence, they ask them for the hypothesis for their globe. And I used that, and every one of them, nothing, radio silence. Show me the hypothesis for your globe if you're claiming scientific evidence. And I didn't even know. That was all I knew about science at the time. But that's all I needed to know. That one thing, that one question. And I didn't even properly know what a correct scientific hypothesis was. But I knew that they didn't have any of it. And I just used that. And never, radio silence, never once did I get an answer to it.
Yeah, you catch them in chat with that a lot. That's the test. They say all the science proves the globe. You catch them in chat.
It's because they've been to anti-flat Earth videos. They've potentially come across the subject, heard it mentioned in the mainstream media, done a search on YouTube, come across Iman Down, and then the re-indoctrination process starts. They go through the same cycle. They think they're studying flat Earth, and they're not. They're listening to anti-flat Earthers tell them that the flat Earthers that they're not looking at, beyond the video that they're in, edited down to the cherry-pick bit that they're going to strawman, that's what they think is researching flat Earth. Like I say, I encountered it with that guy on Earth Chronicles, that debate. He alluded to the idea that he'd spent a good year researching flat Earth. You go, okay, right, so you're going to understand all of our arguments then. You'll understand the Black Swan. You'll understand celestial navigation. No, he spent 12 months researching soundly. You know what I mean? That's what they've actually done. But in his mind's eye, he's researched flat Earth, where he's actually been re-indoctrinated.
I was shocked, though, because I thought that, I was like, how can Earth not be a natural phenomenon? This is way back, and you had to explain it to me, but I thought for sure Earth is a natural phenomenon.
What's happening?
Well, on the other,
that's
hand,
what you said to me.
The Earth.
Like
The
Neil,
Earth's
that's what I'm saying. Neil, I'm sorry. I'm like you, Neil. That's how I was. Even though it wasn't the point, like Nathan said, it wasn't the point of the scientific proof that the Earth is a shape. It was just the scientific proof that kind of, like you said, it's a false category, but it's like the spinning of it, which Nathan broke down and explained the cause and effect that we don't observe, whatever, because of the stars movement or that. But it was not the point of the shape of it, or that it's flat, or that it was the point of that it's moving, that gravity exists. All of the other arguments that
what
are
I said
along
was,
with the heliocentric.
I wasn't
I'm
even
talking about
going
for
there.
me.
What I said
Go on,
was,
Neil.
what do you
Hold
mean
on,
trees are
heroes.
growing?
Go on, Neil.
I said, this is a while ago, I said, what do you mean it's not? It has to be. Trees grow, things are happening on Earth. And then Nathan had to explain to me, yeah, that's things happening, and then go down the line. But I thought Earth was a phenomenon.
Yeah, that's right. The Earth's not the phenomenon. Now you have different things happening on the Earth that are phenomena, but the Earth itself, the subject of the topic, is not a phenomenon. You're just conflating ins and outs.
Right.
I was ignorant.
Is a tree a phenomena?
Can I Brenda this?
Yes or no? Let's just do it round robin. Tree, phenomena, yes or no?
No.
Please let me Brenda it. Can I Brenda it?
No, please.
No. Let's just be serious. Cloud forming.
Yes.
Natural phenomena. Yes.
Yeah, something's occurring. Right. Leaf falling off the tree.
Yes.
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 Well,
Yes.
The soil.
No.
No.
What about a dog?
No.
What about smelling a dog's dirty fart from the other side of the room?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
So something's got to be happening. It's got to be something occurring. Gas filling space in the case of a dog, that's the phenomena. The dog, it's not. The tree, it's not. The leaf falling off the tree, or the leaves, that's definitely a phenomena.
And that's why I appreciate you guys. That's why everybody has to appreciate you guys, because everybody's false conception of science has been clarified through this channel. Real talk from you guys, man. Real talk. Because people were applying science to everything and anything, to inanimate objects, to I mean, this channel here is like the epitome of any so-called non-mainstream, underground, whatever you want to call it,
As much as I
layman
love all the props you're giving
friendly.
me, D-Rose, right? None
Yeah,
of this
just
discussion would be taking place if it wasn't for Quantum Eraser.
no.
One
That's
in
what I'm
All
saying. You
particular.
hail, all
guys,
hail
I'm saying
Jesus.
you guys. I can't single it out. You
I
guys,
can.
Quantum Eraser,
Right.
absolutely, of course, Quantum Eraser. That's why I let him fuck with me, and be bullying me through the thing because
Let him do
I
what?
like to listen to what he got to say. Yeah, he does. He
I do
interjects
not
on me, but when
bully
I interject him,
people.
he's like, "Who the fuck is that talking? Who is that? It ain't nobody but that damn D Rose." And I take it
That was a
because
good mimic. I
I
thought it was him
respect
for a
him,
second.
yo.
He did that. Do that again.
That was great.
Who the fuck is that talking? Is that D Rose again? Who the fuck is that? I'm gonna fucking mute you.
Very good.
I
That
thought
was
it was
great.
QE.
Could there be an argument for a tree as a phenomenon, a living tree or a dead tree?
No, you've incorporated the process of its growth. When you say a living tree, then it's the process of living implies the entropic process of the tree either decaying or growing or whatever it is you're going to describe that's happening. So yeah, plant growth, absolutely a phenomena. It's just when I
So
say
the definition of tree excludes living?
no, it's just when you phrase it as a concrete noun. Just a tree. If I say tree, nothing's happening when I say just tree. It's just a tree.
I mean, the argument could also be for soil too, like dirt. I mean, I'm
What's
just
happening?
kind of brainstorming.
What
Does this
caused the
also
dirt?
go
John,
all the
what
way
caused
down
the
to
dirt?
the level
Oh,
of
hold on.
atomism?
You're being asked what's the cause of dirt.
If the tree or the dirt
Let's
is
stick
the
with dirt.
phenomenon,
Hold
that
on, he's
was
been asked a
hold
question.
on.
Hold on, QE.
If the tree,
Your first question was perfect. You just didn't answer. There was a pause. I'll ask it again. You said, what about the dirt? Okay, fine. QE's response. What's the cause of the concrete noun dirt?
Worms.
My answer would be God created it.
Good answer.
No, worms. You can
No.
science it.
How
Right.
about
If you want to talk about
how
where
about
stuff started, you're right. That was a bloody good answer because the only way to answer it correctly would be to rewind to the beginning of all existence, and you end at the ontological primitives, and the answer is God. That is pretty much the only decent answer you could have given in that circumstance, actually, my friend.
yeah, but it's
Kudos.
the wrong
Yeah, but
answer.
that's supernatural.
Yeah, but
Stop.
hold on.
But
Hold
it's
on,
not.
but it's the wrong answer.
I know it's wrong. It's nearly there. Bloody hell, QE.
Okay,
I
sorry
know.
about that.
It's still not a phenomena.
No, you can't manipulate God to have him cause dirt again. There's a point
You can
behind this.
observe existence.
You're not getting it.
Yeah, it's
So-
not existence versus
So the
occurrence.
dependent variable, the question is, what is the dependent variable? That is the effect, because you're trying to find the cause of that effect. Don't lose sight of this. Not you, Nathan, the other guy. So when you say dirt, that's an effect. The next question, if it's scientific, must be what's the independent variable or the cause of dirt? And you say God.
manure?
Well, yes, of course. But it's not a scientific question anymore now, is it? Because God's not an independent variable.
It's stopped just being dirt as well. You've suddenly gone to what is the cause of dirt, which you could look into. Yeah, you could science something. Like I said, that's why I said worms. Yeah, but ultimately, yes, it does. Everything goes back to God. But as you said, yeah, that stops it being in the purview of science. All of a sudden, you're trying to
That's the
science
point.
it.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, the second you step outside of it just being that concrete noun, like how does dirt form? Well, then there you've got a phenomenon, haven't you?
But that's not dirt.
So the conclusion is that we
Stop.
won't.
Shall I summarize Adam's point? And then you can go, guy from Discord. I'll get your name in a second.
So the
Exactly.
answer
It's
would be
hold
that
on.
there's
Hello.
a
That
lot
means
of
stop.
things
That means
in
stop.
reality.
That means stop. That doesn't mean continually waffle. I'm going to summarize
I'm
Adam's
listening
point.
through my phone. so I
Dude, shut
can't-
up.
Yeah. Further and further from Adam's point. Adam, as it's got that much distance now, do you want to reiterate your own point?
Forgot it.
It's
No,
okay. Dirt is still not something happening, but when you ask the question, how did the dirt come into existence, then you've got a phenomena.
Yeah, but you didn't observe that.
No, you didn't.
So there's some.
So you're in trouble with that.
So the answer would be there's a lot of things in reality that aren't, can't be put through the scientific method.
Yes.
Correct.
It is very, very narrow. It is exclusively designed to elucidate the cause of naturally occurring phenomena. That's effects. It's incredibly narrow. Yes.
So the
Well,
problem
isn't this
with
like
Hold on, let's just let this guy get to the end of his point. Go ahead. Then you can go, Adam.
so the problem with heliocentrism kind of goes with what he was saying about the argument is that the category error, that they're mixing science with philosophy, with existence. I forget the big term for that.
Yes. Yes, exactly. That's the magic trick. To take something that is narrow and specific but offers empirical evidence, that's proof, and then ascribe some of the terminology and language of the method that offers proof to your just so stories or your philosophy. Exactly. That
Very
is the magic
ambiguously, by
trick.
the way.
Go on, Adam.
Very
Over.
ambiguously, by the way. Like science, like initially the first claim. If you were to believe in a flat Earth, then you must deny all of science and all of physics. So there, you don't get into any specificity. That's just a blanket claim made to evoke a thought of empiricism behind it. It's stolen valor, like Nathan calls it. You can explain that, Nathan.
Yeah, the valor of the excellence and precision and, yes, we've covered it, narrow nature of science offers something that is wonderful and advances humanity. When I say stolen valor, that's what I mean. You're not going to take something that's advancing humanity, saving lives, things of that nature, and then ascribe it to your bullshit story because, well, that method, when applied, offered proof. If I just use a couple of the words, people will think I've got proof. That's all that's happening. That's stolen valor.
So this is what NASA's doing, and the astronauts, and the astrophysicists.
Well, this goes back to all of them. This is the pseudoscientists. That's what they do. So the paleontologists, anthropologists, archaeologists, geologists, evolutionary biologists, and yes, I'm still laughing. Theoretical physics, astronomy, cosmology, and astrophysics. That's all they do. They talk about that they're scientists, and what they say is valid because, well, they're scientists and they use the scientific method when they're actual pseudoscientists that don't know their ass from a pipe wrench.
Yeah, but QE, when you go to Gem Pandas and you break that down, they say that's
don't go
sixth
there.
grade science. Sixth grade science. It's advanced. That's the beginning of science.
What?
What?
They told me it's sixth grade science, what we do here on Flat Earth Debate, and that was just the beginning. That
I see where he's going. What he's saying is the dusty old empirical method. I mean, yeah, people used to use that to advance humanity and technology, but we've advanced beyond that dusty old empirical method to the method that I'm going to talk about. That's just as good and uses experiments and proves things when I tell stories. It's just not the same method.
No, that's not what they're trying to imply. It goes back to every time that somebody would screw up the scientific method, I would say you would fail fifth grade general science. So they're trying to somehow impart that the scientific method that we use is rudimentary and juvenile. And that there's somehow this other
quantum eraser's scientific method that's puerile and stupid. Gotcha.
Yes. Did you say that in another way, that they are mixing the invisible or spiritual realm with the physical, observable realm?
Not necessarily. Maybe in some scenarios. What all they're doing is incorporating empirical methodology and the terminology thereof into just so stories. QE used to call it greasing the skids of their just so stories with science sounding terminology.
Because we're all using words and we're describing things, but is the point that words can't fully describe the invisible realities?
No, but you can conjure a reality that does not exist if you can imply that you have empirical evidence that it does exist. So if you use words that are typically associated with things being proven, and then you describe a world that does not exist with that terminology, then the idea behind doing that is to create the idea with the empirical terminology that your world that doesn't exist does exist. I.e., you're on a globe in a sky vacuum, because science says we're in the sky, and science has advanced humanity to space and the moon, and science is going to take us to Mars in the future. But science has got sod all to do with rockets. Science has got sod all to do with the assertion the sky is a vacuum. Science has got nothing to do with the physical assumption bias that the Mars that they look at through their telescopes is a place we can visit. None of those things are science. But you the listener, think we're going to Mars because science says we're going to Mars, right? Stolen valor.
Nathan, I want to say something real quick. That goes with the
You can, but
convoluting
I
and
think that
intertwining
other
with.
Nathan. Hold on,
just,
D-Rose. Hold on. I think the other Nathan guy had something to just add on the end. Go ahead.
Okay, good.
Oh, it made me think of a term I made up, the eyepiece priest. That's the astrophysicist, and they make their myths up.
Okay, that was it.
That it?
Fair
enough.
This is
D-Rose.
something I go through with my family. This is what I go through with my family, and they speak for, I would say, the majority of the world. They're convoluting and they're intertwining advanced technology with science, because this is their argument. Science covers all things: artificial intelligence, the advancement of technology and advancement of humanity, being able to do the things that we couldn't do back then, yada yada yada. Because people really think that that's science, because you can make a silicone arm function for robotics for somebody that had lost their arm during the war. They think that is science. They literally think that is science, not just advanced technology. They put it together. And these people feel this and they stand hard and strong on it. And you can't argue them out of it.
Oh, yes, I can.
I know
Pink writing
No,
helps.
I know you can. I know y'all can. But see, unfortunately, these people are not listening to this channel to understand the differential. They just look at it as this is science. Look how science advanced. Now they got these things where you could put this thing and chip inside of the retina, and you can, like Stevie Wonder, put a chip in there, and now he can see hand motion and count fingers. That's not science. That's advanced technology.
Yeah, medical science is what they'd call it. But yeah, exactly the same
Yes,
stolen
exactly.
valor.
There
There's
you
plenty of science in medicine, but there's applied technologies to humanity or human bionics, whatever you want to term it, that isn't science. It's just advancement in technology.
It's engineering.
Engineering, yeah, exactly.
If it's got the prefix, then it's fine to me. I don't think there's any valor stolen in medical science. It's quite clear what it is because of the prefix. Yeah, it's going to want, and there will be science in there. There'll be correlation in there because it's medical. So as long as you understand the field, it comes back to John's critiques of certain fields, geology, etc. There is no science in that. Well, a little bit. So you can have geological science. It's when you just say science, you're implying the empiricism of the method that to draw your conclusion. That's where it's incorrect for me. But I don't see a stealing of valor there. I think you've just got to have the understanding that the prefix denotes the subject, and within that subject there may be science, but realize the subject you're in and the limitations.
Perfect way to round out. So with that, I'll say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!